Chapter 963. Chen Aochen's family didn't like the Thug Academy either. However, they didn't participate in what happened in the past, so they chose not to take sides at this moment. Han Fei smiled and said, "I saved the people of the Chen family. Senior, aren't you going to help me?" Chen Xuanba said, "It's already the greatest help I can give you." Han Fei smiled and said, "Then I'll let them go when this is over." Chen Xuanba was indifferent. Taking Chen Aochen, who was dumbfounded, he stepped through the void and stood 100 kilometers away. Both Yi Dongfei and Li Tongyuan stood out. They were deeply involved in what happened in the past. Sun Baisheng had already started fighting, so they had to stand up. In the distant sky, there was a thunderclap. Old Jiang and the two explorers fought so hard that the sky changed color and the earth rumbled. Old Bai glanced at the four of them. "You four, do you really think I don't have any backup?" Li Tongyuan looked at Mu Tianfang and the others. "Although you didn't take action at the beginning, you must know the trouble caused by the Thug Academy. Are you going to let them continue to make trouble?" Mu Tianfang's face was dark and uncertain. He looked at Old Bai and said, "Mr. Bai, what I said just now still stands." Tang Gu and Mu Ling were protected by the law enforcers of the Heavenly Sword sect, so they could only be anxious at this moment. Especially Tang Gu, his whole body was tense. Mu Ling said, "Don't worry. The Thug Academy is not simple. Let's see what happens next." Bai Kongyi shook his head slightly. As he stretched out his hand, a black-robed puppet appeared beside him. It was more like a corpse than a puppet. The moment they saw this corpse, the faces of Mo Dufei and the others changed slightly. Yi Dongfei said, "I'll do it." Yi Dongfei tore the void in front of him. He and the corpse puppet disappeared into the void one after the other. Zhang Wanjin said, "Bai Kongyi, if you can find the corpse of the original body, we'll admit defeat this time." "You brought the corpse of a clone. Why? Do you think our big families are so easy to deal with?" Rip. The void was suddenly torn apart, and an old man suddenly appeared on the sea. Seeing this old man, Zhang Wanjin frowned. "Jiuyin Lai. This matter has nothing to do with your family, right? Why, does your Jiuyin clan think that it's amazing to have a prodigy from your clan?" Jiuyin Lai took a deep look at Han Fei. "The power of our clan depends on little Ling. Han Fei is someone my great-granddaughter likes. It's reasonable for me to help him." Old Bai grinned and said, "Thank you." Jiuyin Lai sighed slightly. "I'm not very talented. It's already commendable that I can become an explorer. I can barely block one person." Suddenly, he heard Li Tongyuan say with a smile, "Then, let me try out the 9 sounds of heavenly profound 9 sounds of the 9 sounds family. Please." In the field, only Mo Dufei and Zhang Wanjin were left. Zhang Wanjin shouted, "Those who are watching the show, are you not going to make a move?" Hee hee. There was laughter, and Han Fei suddenly found that Yu Shire beside him suddenly disappeared. 1,000 meters away, a sloppy brawny man with a wine gourd in one hand said with a smile, "This disciple of mine takes after me. I just want to take a look. There's no need for me to attack." Han Fei's pupils constricted and he saw 2 more people walking out of the void. However, they didn't approach but just watched the show and didn't intend to make a move for the time being. He didn't know whether they were enemies or friends. Han Fei didn't panic. He knew that Old Han was also one of the players. Old Han didn't show up for the time being. Although Han Fei felt that Old Han was not like what he showed. After all, the sea-quelling painting had taken him to see the situation of Old Han and his mother. At this time, the people of the 7 major sects were unhappy, and a powerhouse from the origin returning peak shouted, "Since they don't want to return, are we going to give them the cold shoulder?" A powerhouse from the Mountain Sea Pavilion snorted coldly. "Yes, if we let the Thug Academy do whatever they want, who knows what will happen in the future." Han Fei looked back. The 3 top heavenly talents of the Heavenly Sword sect are in the sea-quelling painting. As long as they don't interfere, I will let them go. As for the other 7 sects, except for the Death Door sect, all have disciples here. Are you sure you want to ignore the safety of your disciples and attack the Thug Academy? Yang Xie suddenly said, a disciple of the Grand Void Academy gave birth to a level 7 spiritual heritage, which is in the painting. A disciple of the Jade Fairy Palace gave birth to a heavenly girl with a level 7 spiritual heritage, which is also in the painting. There are 3 disciples of the Origin Returning Peak who are cultivating with the disciples of the Jade Fairy Palace. Even if the heavenly girl is a disciple of your Origin Returning Peak, you don't want her. As soon as he said this, the faces of the powerhouses of the sects changed. The eyes of the old Taoist from the Grand Void Academy lit up. You mean a disciple of the Grand Void Academy gave birth to a level 7 spiritual heritage? Yang Xie smiled and said, I don't have to deceive you, senior. The 7 major sects and the Thug Academy don't have a deep grudge against each other. These children call me uncle, and I also want to release them. The old Taoist from the Grand Void Academy immediately said, okay. If this is true, the Grand Void Academy will not interfere. But if you lie to me, don't blame me for being ruthless. The Jade Fairy Palace nodded and said, the Jade Fairy Palace will not participate in this matter. The face of the powerhouse from the Origin Returning Peak changed. The children of the Jade Fairy Palace should belong to the Origin Returning Peak, right? Immediately, he said, okay, but can I have a look at the children of the Origin Returning Peak? Han Fei waved his hand and saw a girl being held by another woman, who was scared of suddenly appearing in a strange place. Mom! Water, the sea. The woman had no cultivation, so she looked at Yang Xie nervously. Mr. Yang. What's going on? Yang Xie smiled and said, it doesn't matter. Xiaoya, just tell me who your mother is. The woman said, Lin Qingyue, my mother is Lin Qingyue. The powerhouse from the Jade Fairy Palace shouted, what? Qingyue is not dead. The powerhouse from the Origin Returning Peak tried to keep his tone calm and said with a smile, girl, who is your father? The little girl hid behind people nervously and said charmingly, Zhou Wuji. The powerhouse from the Origin Returning Peak exclaimed, what, Wuji? Your father is Zhou Wuji. Yang Xie said, Xiaoya, I'll send you back first. We are negotiating. Don't panic. With a thought in Han Fei's mind, the phantom wrapped the 2 of them and disappeared again. Han Fei looked at the crowd and said, as you all know, those who can compete for the sea-quelling painting are all talented people. Among them, most of them are from the 7 major sections. Do the 7 major sects still want to participate in the war? The old man from the Origin Returning Peak took a deep look at Han Fei. Okay. The Origin Returning Peak won't interfere in this matter. But, Han Fei, let her out first, and I will take her away immediately. The powerhouse from the Jade Fairy Palace said, that little girl is also a member of the Jade Fairy Palace, right? Why can't I take her away? Humph. Children follow their father. If I don't take her away, will the Jade Fairy Palace take her away? The powerhouse from the Jade Fairy Palace said angrily, this is not up to you. Our Jade Fairy Palace insists on taking her away. What can you do? Han Fei smiled and said, seniors, why are you arguing now? The crisis of the Thug Academy has not been resolved yet. Now, I definitely can't give her to you. After all, we are not familiar with each other. If I give her to you, you will turn against me. Why should I come here? Someone shouted, boy, don't you trust the credibility of the 7 major sects? Old Bai sneered. Since you want to keep your word, don't come here now. All of a sudden, the Origin Returning Peak, the Grand Void Academy, the Jade Fairy Palace, the Heavenly Sword Sect, and other sects didn't take action. The Death Door Sect, the Mountain Sea Pavilion, and the Sea Cloud Tower naturally wouldn't take action alone. Giggle, suddenly, there was a burst of laughter. Mo Dufei said, is this the means of the Thug Academy? Even children have become your tools to threaten people. Old Bai scolded, don't be so sarcastic. How dare you laugh? You are a poisonous woman. Do you think the Mo family doesn't know about this? Mo Dufei frowned. By Kongi, I dare you to say that again. Old Bai scolded with a smile, what else can the Mo family do except find a man? Two black dragons of water bombarded Old Bai. Old Bai clapped his hands, and the waves burst, and the tide reached the sky, pouring out. Mo Dufei shouted, even if they don't take action, don't forget that there are many law enforcers here. Zhang Wanjin, let's work together to suppress this old man. Why do you have to do this? A voice came down leisurely. Everyone looked up and saw a middle-aged man walking out of the void. The man looked indifferent. By Kongi, have you ever thought that you have been competing for the sea-quelling painting? But are you qualified? You screwed up the first 2 times, and you still want to play this time. The sea-quelling painting can belong to anyone but you. You said you would take revenge on the 1,000-star city. Let me ask you, what ability do you have to take revenge? Old Bai's face turned cold, and he gritted his teeth. The Chu sect. Han Fei and the others wondered, what the hell is the Chu sect? Are there so many big clans in the 1,000-star city? Shueishenqi, who had been silent, said, since the Chu sect wants to compete for the painting, why do you show up now? The man smiled disdainfully. So many people can't even deal with the Thug Academy. Who else can do it? Call some repulsive and declining family over. The Chu sect disdains to compete for the painting. However, they didn't say that the sea-quelling painting could fall into the hands of these people from the Thug Academy. With that said, the man glanced at Han Fei. Your name is Han Fei, right? Hand over the sea-quelling painting and I can spare your life. Bai Kongi cursed. Chu Nanfeng, are you threatening the Thug Academy? The middle-aged man called Chu Nanfeng smiled contemptuously. Yes, I am. So what? You're a good seedling if you can get the sea-quelling painting. Don't be killed by me. Isn't it a loss for the Thug Academy? Seeing that Chu Nanfeng was very domineering, Han Fei immediately cursed, Old Turtle, do you want to kill me? Believe it or not, I'll tear down your Chu sect in the future. Chu Nanfeng narrowed his eyes slightly. Boy, do you want to die? Han Fei said, come on. Chu Nanfeng took a step down, and the void shook. Suddenly, a voice sounded. I didn't expect that a small fry like you has become so domineering. The void shook, and someone came from the sea with his hands behind his back, his clothes fluttering in the long wind. The man seemed to travel 1,000 miles with a single step. He walked on the waves and appeared in front of everyone. I heard that you want to touch my son. Chapter 964. The battles in all directions seemed to have stopped. Countless eyes fell on the elegant middle-aged man on the sea. Chu Nanfeng's face was extremely ugly, and he said word by word, Han. Guan. Shu. As soon as this name came out, the void shook, and the group of guys who were fighting just now came out of the void one after another, looking stunned. Zhang Wanjin exclaimed, you're not dead. Old Han tilted his head, and his eyes seemed to penetrate the clouds. He curled his lips and smiled. Do I look like a person who will die so easily? Zhang Zibao, even you dare to have designs on my son now? Did your old man come back to life, or do you have too much oil in your stomach? Do you need me to scrape it for you? Han Fei looked embarrassed, and everyone looked at him. Zhang Xuanyu swallowed. Fei Fei. You're not honest. Didn't you say you came from the countryside? Lu Renquang also said with a trembling face, you're not only dishonest, but also. You've cheated our feelings. Even Old Bai looked at Han Fei deeply, speechless. Han Fei coughed. Well, it's not what you think. Han Fei immediately waved his hand and said, Old Han, these bastards are threatening me. And the one up there wants to kill me. Tell me what to do. Didn't you boast about your strength before? On the side of the Heavenly Sword sect, Tang Gu said in shock, my foster father. Mu Tianfang widened his eyes and looked at Tang Gu. Who did you say? He is your foster father. Mu Ling grabbed Tang Ji's arm with both hands and narrowed her eyes. It seemed that she had a good eye. Han Guanshu looked back at Tang Gu gently and nodded. Then, Han Guanshu looked at Han Fei again and said, if you're threatened, then beat him until he doesn't even have the courage to threaten you. With that, Han Guanshu looked at the void in the distance and said, come out. I wanted to see who would come, but I didn't. I didn't expect you to be so calm. Everyone was stunned. Someone else? Another person walked out of the clouds, dressed in white, looking cold, and nodding slightly to Han Guanshu. Mo Dufei frowned, Luo Tianhe. Beside Han Fei, Luo Xiaobai looked indifferent. Father. Luo Tianhe said faintly, since the main character is here, I have nothing to do with it. In addition to Luo Tianhe, there were 6 other explorers, but their faces were all dark at the moment. It seemed that they were not on their side. Now that they saw Han Guanshu, they didn't dare to act rashly. Han Guanshu grinned. Wait a moment. Help me look after my child. I haven't fought for many years, so I'm going to stretch my muscles today. While talking and laughing, Han Guanshu disappeared. In the void, Chu Nanfeng retreated rapidly. But who would have thought? A golden dragon image appeared in the sky, opening its mouth and swallowing the heavens. In fact, they couldn't see anything clearly except for the golden light in the sky. Bang! Someone crashed through the surface of the sea. Just the waves alone were more than 300 feet tall. The surface of the sea caved in by more than 500 meters. The terrifying power sent everyone and everything within 100 meters flying. If it weren't for Old Bai's protection, Han Fei and the others would have been blown away. The waves on the sea hadn't stopped yet. Above the sky, 7 or 8 strings of golden halos soared into the sky like firecrackers. Every time the halos flashed, it was like a thunderclap. On the other side, Zhang Wanjin just wanted to retreat, but his body was directly bent like a shrimp. He was punched thousands of miles away, his chest burst, and he disappeared. Mo Dufei also wanted to retreat. She slapped her dragon tail and turned into a star in the sky. Yang Erfu felt something was wrong. He waved his double axes in the sky, and a big hand stretched out from the void and caught the giant axes. Then, his twin axes shattered, his arms directly torn apart, broken at the base, blood dripping everywhere. Yi Dongfei sped away, still wanting to escape. In the end, the void was locked, and a palm slapped down, causing him to roll on the surface of the sea, bouncing off the surface of the water. His face was smacked into a bloody mess. Li Tongyuan cursed and tore a crack in the void, trying to escape, but the golden dragon turned around and swallowed him in one gulp. When he was spat out, most of his skin and flesh had disappeared, and he almost became a skeleton. As for Sun Baisheng, Old Han paid special attention to him because he shouted so fiercely just now. He stomped his big foot in the air and kicked hundreds of times in a row. The surface of the sea was stomped to the bottom. At this moment, he was lying in the mud at the bottom of the sea, and most of his bones were broken. He looked like a puddle of mud. Gulp. The sound of swallowing saliva could be heard everywhere. Even Han Fei himself was swallowing saliva. The group of explorers who had been hiding earlier were all silent and did not move. Their hearts were already filled with disgust and fear. Is this the power of a fucking venerable? A group of explorers, including the peak-level explorers, were like ironhead fish, beaten to a pulp, without the slightest power to fight back. Fuck, is he really that powerful? Explorers? Chopping melons and vegetables, but all of them were killed in one blow. Boom! There seemed to be a thunderclap, and a voice sounded in the void, Han Guanshu, have you returned to the venerable realm? Han Guanshu's figure reappeared on the sea. He was still in the same position, still with his hands behind his back, looking up at the empty sky. You should know that this day will come. Old Han's body moved slightly, and then a terrifying explosion broke out in the sky. The clouds dissipated, and within 100 kilometers, it suddenly became dark. A pitch-black hole appeared in the sky, and an invisible attack shook in all directions. Old Han chuckled. You said that the Thug Academy can't take revenge on the big clans of the Thousand Star City. Why don't you take a look at me? From today on, if any big clan interferes and dares to touch a hair of my son, I will destroy them. Even if I can't destroy you venerables, I can destroy these scums. There was silence in the sky. On the distant sea, Chu Nanfeng was dripping with blood. His lower body had been smashed and was rapidly regrowing. At this moment, he was staring at this side. Han Guanshu chuckled. Southern Chao, Northern Chu, is this all the Chu sect can do now? In the sky, the voice sounded again. Han Guanshu, if I can defeat you once, I can defeat you again. Can you protect the Thug Academy? Han Guanshu smiled coldly. I'm protecting my son, and the Thug Academy. You can have a try. Let's see if I can or can't protect them. This is the price. I wonder if you can afford it. Han Fei put his hand aside and sighed. Old Han is a venerable. He had always thought that Old Han was an explorer at most. But he was a venerable. Why did he panic when he suddenly had a venerable for a father? Wait. If Old Han is a venerable, why didn't Chun Huangdian take action when he came? Wow! Is he really my father? Han Fei absolutely didn't believe that Old Han didn't know what happened to him at that time. No matter how big the problem was, he could have solved it with his fingers. In fact, I could have been saved at that time. The voice in the sky was silent for a while, and then a voice echoed in the sky, disperse. For a moment, the faces of those who came to grab the painting turned red, and their faces were extremely dark. In such an unexpected situation, it was really not something they could get involved in, so they could only leave one after another. Only then did they know that there was such a big shot behind Han Fei. Although they had guessed that even if Han Guanshu was not dead, he would be seriously injured. But how did he suddenly become a venerable again? Fortunately, Han Guanshu didn't completely offend them. Otherwise, these people who came today might not have been able to walk out of this sea area. Even Chu Nanfeng of the Chu sect, who had the strength of a peak-level explorer, was easily beaten to death by Han Fei. They were a group of explorers who were still far from the peak. How could they be crushed to death before they could even reach out their hands? They really couldn't afford to offend Han Guanshu. It was precisely because of the large number of children in the family and the number of heavenly talents in the family that the big families could establish themselves in the Thousand Star City. If a venerable launched a sneak attack, it was entirely possible that the whole family would be wiped out. No family was willing to pay this price. When the sea calmed down, some law enforcers brought out a large group of people from the ancient battlefield. Shueishenqi signaled them to take them back to the Scattered Stars Island. Shueishenqi said, Chu Linyuan, Mu Qingchuan, Wang Dashuai, Bai Lu, you must go back to the Scattered Stars Island to become law enforcers. You can go back by yourselves later. Shueishenqi said and left. He didn't want to care about these messy things. His responsibility was to deal with the sea demons, not the sea-quelling painting. Luo Tianhe cupped his hands to Bai Kongyi. Mr. Bai, please take care of Xiao Bai. Bai Kongyi nodded. No problem. With that, Luo Tianhe took a step out and disappeared. Zhou Yinlai was a little embarrassed at the moment. He really just came to help his granddaughter's sweetheart, which was related to Zhou Yinling's future achievements. Of course, he couldn't watch Han Fei be killed by others. But who would have thought that? Han Fei's background was so powerful. Supremacy Father was ridiculously strong. Zhou Yinlai even wondered if he should prepare more dowries in the future. If he didn't prepare enough, he probably wouldn't like it. But his family seemed to be quite poor. It seemed that he couldn't afford any dowries. Han Guanshu smiled faintly and said, Senior Zhou, let the juniors deal with their own affairs. It's better if we don't interfere. Zhou Yinlai nodded repeatedly. Yes, yes. In that case, I'll leave first. In the future, let the children come to our home to play. After saying that, Zhou Yinlai left. I have to talk to Zhou Yinling later. This man is really a good choice. I have to keep him. The people of the 7 major sects hadn't left yet. They were all waiting for Han Fei to let them go. Some people from the big clans hadn't left either, waiting for Han Fei to let them go. Han Guanqiu glanced at those people. Remember to go back and tell your family that everyone owes my son a favor. If it's not clear, I don't mind helping you. Those law enforcers were horrified. This time, they owed Han Fei a big favor. They didn't even want the descendants of their clans anymore. However, how dare they disobey the Venerable's words? With a thought from Han Fei, the phantom of an earth appeared. Thousands of people stood on the surface of the sea. The seawater supported them and prevented those ordinary people from falling. Ah! Master! Master! Unfilial disciple greets Master. Mom! The sea! Greetings, Grand Master. In a panic, many ordinary people were dumbfounded when they saw the current environment. Some people were nervous, and the children were too scared to even speak. Besides, they all stared at the surface of the water, feeling that they couldn't fall. It was amazing. The powerhouse from the Grand Void Academy laughed and said, "It's good that you're back. Which one is the Qilin of the Grand Void Academy? Let me see him." On the other side, the Origin Returning Peak and the Jade Fairy Palace gathered together. Because Han Guanqiu was there, the two sides didn't quarrel. They seemed to be competing for the heavenly girl. Whoever wanted to take her away would be compensated. Otherwise, who would be so stupid? Mu Tianfang saw the 3 disciples of the Heavenly Sword sect, but the 3 of them looked dull. Although they greeted him politely, they didn't seem to have any feelings for each other. Han Fei said, "There are strange laws in the sea-quelling painting, one of which is called grand indifference." The disciples of the Heavenly Sword sect walked past that law, so they became like this. Mu Tianfang took a slight breath and then nodded. In fact, the 7 major sects were also glad that they didn't attack Han Fei just now. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. When these people in the sea-quelling painting were greeting each other, Tang Gu and Mu Ling also came to Han Fei's side. Mu Ling was a little nervous and said nervously, "Greetings, Uncle Han." Han Feishu smiled faintly. "Not bad, Tang Gu is blessed to be favored by you." Han Fei was staring at him. "Your other daughter-in-law has been snatched away." Ignoring Han Fei's gaze, Han Guanqiu looked at Old Bai and Old Jiang and said, "I'll take these 2 brothers to have a talk." Then with a swish, Han Fei and Tang Gu disappeared from the sea. Chapter 965. In a broken secret realm, there was a chair with a hot pot on it, and Han Fei and his sons were eating around the table. Before Han Guanqiu spoke, Han Fei asked, "Let's not talk about anything else. Let's talk about your daughter-in-law first. You are a venerable. Why didn't you save your daughter-in-law?" Han Guanqiu gently picked up a piece of fish and put it into his mouth, praising, "Xia Xiaochan's identity has always been extraordinary. Xia Xiaochan's identity has always been extraordinary. It's not good for her to stay here. The 1,000-star city doesn't have the space for her to grow." Han Fei was helpless. "Okay, that's a good explanation. What if I was killed?" Han Guanqiu looked at Han Fei with a smile. "Dead?" Han Fei's eyelids twitched. "Is this also part of your plan?" Han Guanqiu shook his head slightly. "I am not omniscient and omnipotent. There are some things that I can't predict, but I can predict that you are not destined to die. At least, it was a crisis, but it couldn't kill you." Han Fei was speechless. How wise was he? Tang Gu asked in surprise, "Father, what are you talking about? What happened to Han Fei?" Han Guanqiu smiled and said, "Nothing. Tang Gu, thank you for your hard work during the years I was away." Tang Gu shook his head. "Father, Han Fei and I are brothers." Han Guanqiu smiled and said, "Well, very good. Since you have joined the Heavenly Sword sect, I think Mu Ling is also a good girl. When I go back, I will propose to Mu Tianfang. Huh? Tang Ge blushed. Propose? How old is he? Proposing marriage just like that? Han Fei also looked at Han Guanshu in a daze, but then he thought of something. No. This matter is definitely not so simple. Cultivators have a long life, and now is the critical period of cultivation and growth. Besides, it's more like a proposal in 10 years. Why now? The scene with old Han appeared in Han Fei's mind. He had a feeling that something was wrong. However, if Tang Ge and Mu Ling got married and cultivated together, it would also be a good thing. At least Tang Ge could live a much more comfortable life than he did. Han Fei thought that it would be difficult for him to propose a marriage. Maybe he would be slapped to death and thrown out of the house. Han Fei said, "Let's do it. Anyway, it will happen sooner or later." But old Han, did it mean that the matter in the Thousand-Star City was over? Then can I go to the Thousand-Star City in the future? Han Guanshu nodded. I have to go, but I need to lay low for a year. Why? Han Guanshu said lightly, a venerable can't completely scare them. Not only are you going to the Thousand-Star City, but the Thug Academy will also choose to return. Before you show your fangs, the people in the Thousand-Star City won't target you too much because of my strength. Han Fei keenly sensed something and frowned. What do you mean by baring your fangs? Han Guanshu said, in any era and in any group, what the higher-ups value is often interests. You've got the sea-quelling painting and the opportunity to become one. They won't allow you to develop and grow stronger in any way. Think about it, if you become a king, what will happen? Han Fei frowned. King Cheng. If I succeed, I'll become the 9 Earth Immortal Master. The entire territory within 8 million kilometers will be mine. Thinking of this, Han Fei took a deep breath. Yes, there were no king-level masters in the Thousand-Star City. At this time, the big families were all bosses, and whoever was the strongest had more say. And once he became a king, these big families would consider that he was their master. They would think about whether their families would be punished, whether their rights would be deprived, and everything they had would be controlled. Even if he was a member of these big families, he would probably have the same thought. Han Guanshu looked at Han Fei with a smile. Have you thought of that? Han Fei frowned. So they are likely to send a strong master to kill me at any time. Han Guanshu shook his head slightly. With me here, they won't dare to do so for the time being. Even if a venerable tries to kill you in person, I will find out. However, this is only temporary until you become an explorer. Han Fei grinned. If the strong don't take action, what can they do to me? Han Guanshu said, they will give you some power. Han Fei. Han Fei was stunned. What? Han Guanshu said, maybe they will give you some of their full power, which is why I think the Thug Academy will return. What's the use of giving me power? Han Guanshu said, there are still many unsolved mysteries in this sea area. For example, the 10,000 Demon Valley is still here. If you can become a king, won't you solve the problem of the 10,000 Demon Valley? Although they can't kill you, they will give you a lot of suffering. I won't intervene in this. Han Fei took a breath. Would those people really be so insidious? Although the 10,000 Demon Valley was destroyed this time, there were still countless sea demons. The world on the other side of the 10,000 Demon Valley was also a territory that human beings couldn't explore. Han Fei knew that there were still many dangers there. Besides, there was still the mysterious King City. Han Fei said lightly, what about after I become an explorer? Han Guanshu shook his head. You can't become an explorer here. Han Fei asked in surprise, why? Han Guanshu said leisurely, to become an explorer, you need to withstand a terrifying lightning tribulation. In this territory, you have become a target for everyone, and you can't hide from them. At that time, even I can't guarantee that you can survive the lightning tribulation. They don't even need to kill you. They only need to disrupt your tribulation. They will cut off your path, but they won't kill you. Do you think I can completely fall out with them? Han Fei took a deep breath. What a cunning plan. Tang Ji's face was dark. Shameless. Han Guanchu glanced at Tang Gu and said, including you. Now that you are related to me, they won't let you become an explorer, so you should propose marriage as soon as possible. Han Fei immediately slapped his thigh. I knew it. Once Tang Gu and Mu Ling dual cultivate, Tang Gu will completely be a member of the Heavenly Sword sect. The 7 major sects are on the same side, and the Heavenly Sword sect is the leader of the 7 major sects, so those people will have scruples and won't stop you. Han Guanchu nodded slightly. Not bad. You're smart. Tang Ji's face turned cold, and he gritted his teeth. Those big clans have dominated the 1,000-star city for too long. Han Feishu smiled. Gouv, from today on, before Han Fei becomes an explorer and returns, you'd better not have too much contact with each other. Tang Gu immediately asked, Father, where is Han Fei going? Han Guanchu said with a smile, it's not about where I'm going now, but where I'm going in the future. Han Guanchu had finished what Tang Gu wanted to say, so he said, Gu, I'll send you back first. Tell Mu Tianfang to wait for a while. Tang Gu knew that after he left, he would have less contact with Han Fei in the future. He had to find a way to become an explorer under the protection of the Heavenly Sword sect. Okay. Han Guanchu waved his hand, and Tang Gu disappeared. On the sea. Mu Tianfang didn't leave. The other major sects were all thinking about whether to leave or not. Suddenly, Tang Gu abruptly appeared on the sea. Mu Tianfang said with a smile, how did it go? What did you talk about? Tang Gu blushed slightly. Master, father said he had something to say to you later. Oh. Mu Tianfang was a little surprised. Why did Han Guanchu want to talk to him? They didn't seem to have any relationship. Mu Ling blushed and widened her eyes. She knew Tang Gu better than her father, so when she saw Tang Gu blush, she seemed to guess something and was a little nervous. In the secret realm. Han Fei looked at old Han and asked, why did you send Tang Gu away? Han Guanchu smiled and said, don't you have anything to ask? Han Fei glanced at him. Can you answer my questions? Han Fei immediately said, you said that the breakthrough explorer can't be made here. Do you mean to go to the other side through the demon plant forest? Han Guanchu nodded. Han Fei said, the other side is the Waterwood Heaven. That is, the Waterwood Fairy Palace. Han Feishu smiled and nodded again. Han Fei took a breath. Old Han really knew about the Fairy Palace. Then he suddenly changed the topic. How did my mother die? Han Feishu paused slightly. It turned out to be you. Huh? Han Guanchu said, didn't you see it? Han Fei's eyes widened. How did old Han know? Han Guanchu said, because that place is not open to everyone. When I raised the knife, I was hesitating and guessing who you were. In addition to me and her, you were the only one. Han Fei felt his blood freeze. How did he guess it? Han Fei asked, then. Why did you kill her? Why did she kill me? Han Guanchu was puzzled for a moment. Oh. It seems that you didn't see everything. What do you mean? Han Guanchu chuckled. Who said that she wanted to kill you? Who said that I killed her? Han Fei was speechless. I saw it all. Your knife. Han Guanchu shook his head slightly. Well. I'll tell you the answer in the future. Since you don't know it yet, don't know it now. It will affect your state of mind. Han Fei looked at old Han speechlessly. Don't keep me in suspense. Why don't you just tell me directly? Han Guanchu shook his head. Let's talk about it in the future. Han Fei was frustrated. Then you can tell me who she is, right? This time, Han Guanchu said in surprise, you don't know who she is? Han Fei was dumbfounded. Why do you look like I should know? Should I know? Han Guanchu quickly recovered. Then I can't tell you. Okay, enough chit-chat. Let me tell you another thing. Your Thug Academy is facing a great tribulation. If you participate in it, you will also suffer a great tribulation. If you don't participate in it and stay out of it, you will be safe. Han Fei narrowed his eyes. What do you mean? Can't you help me? Han Guanchu shook his head. I can't help just because I've calculated everything. You have to know that changing the direction of one thing may change the direction of countless things. What's more, the outcome of this great calamity is mixed. Chapter 966. Above the Sea. Han Guanchu suddenly appeared with Han Fei, and the two of them walked directly to the Heavenly Sword sect. Mu Tianfang was confused. What does this mean? Han Guanchu saluted and said, Brother Mu, I have something to discuss with you. Mu Tianfang's heart did a flip. How could he refuse a venerable who lowered his status and called him brother? Mu Tianfang immediately became serious. Brother Han, please go ahead. Han Guanchu smiled faintly and said, Brother Mu, thanks to your hard training, my son Tang Ge can show his talent. I must thank you in person. Mu Tian was relieved to hear that. I thought you were going to put Han Fei, the hot potato, on my side as well. I was scared to death. Mu Tianfang immediately said politely, Gu is talented and resolute. He is really a rare genius in 100 years. If it weren't for Brother Han, how could my Heavenly Sword sect have such a great talent? Han Guanchu chuckled. Well, Brother Mu, I think my son and your daughter are in love, and I'm elusive and hard to find. Today, I have this opportunity to propose marriage to Brother Mu. With that, Han Guanchu took out a pair of silver bracelets carved with dragons and phoenixes and said, although this sun-moon concentric ring has no special attack means, it is comparable to a sea-quelling bizarre treasure when combined and even better than an ultra-quality divine weapon when separated. Its defensive means are not bad. How about it as a betrothal gift? Mu Ling was stunned. She was only 18 years old. She had never seen such a scene before. Not to mention Mu Ling, even Mu Tianfang himself was stunned. Fuck. Using a sea-quelling bizarre treasure as a betrothal gift? How rich. Even Han Fei was stunned. Fuck, good stuff. Why don't I have this thing? Before Mu Tianfang spoke, Han Guanchu waved his hand and a dark weapon halberd appeared in his hand. He looked at Tang Ge with a smile and said, You've grown up. You should at least have a decent weapon in your hand. I got this halberd by chance. It is an ultra-quality divine weapon and quite rare. Remember to use it to protect the people you should protect. After that, Han Guanchu threw the halberd to Tang Ge. The latter's head was humming, and he was so moved that he could only say, Foster father. Han Fei's head buzzed as he watched from the side. A sea-quelling bizarre treasure and an ultra-quality divine weapon. Old Han is really rich. Han Guanchu smiled at Mu Tianfang and said, Brother Mu, what do you think of my suggestion? In fact, even if Han Guanchu didn't say it, Mu Tianfang actually had such a plan. A disciple was not as good as a parent. Tang Ge was talented and focused, and the marriage between him and Mu Ling was expected. Now that Han Guanchu was so generous, he must have done more than that. He also wanted to make friends with the 7 major sects and make them turn a blind eye to certain things in the future. However, Mu Tianfang thought that once he became in-laws with Han Guanchu, no one would be able to shake the status of the Heavenly Sword sect. There would be a venerable in the sect, and the in-laws would also be a venerable. With 2 venerables, who would dare to underestimate them? All right. Mu Tianfang immediately agreed. Brother Han, to tell you the truth, I have long regarded Ge as my son. Since Brother Han is willing to marry me, I can't be happier. How about this, when the 2 of them are the guardians of the Scattered Stars Island, I will personally preside over the wedding. Brother Mu, please come. Han Guanchu smiled and said, I may not be able to go. Brother Mu, you know, I have a lot of enemies. It won't be nice if I go. Although Han Fei and Tang Gu were not biological brothers, they were closer than biological brothers. When the time came, Han Fei could go. But unfortunately, I don't know when I can hear my daughter-in-law call me that, alas. Mu Ling's eyes lit up. Foster father. Ha ha ha. Good, good, good. With that, Han Guanshu stuffed the sun-moon concentric bracelet into Mu Ling's hand. Very good, very good. On the other side, Han Guanshu and Mu Tianfang got along well and even became in-laws. The other 6 major sects were all stunned. So they're in-laws. The status of the Heavenly Sword sect is unshakable in the future. Why didn't you like the girl of the Jade Fairy Palace? Immediately, the powerhouse of the Jade Fairy Palace whispered, Yuehan, what do you think of Han Fei? Huh? Gong Yuehan was dumbfounded and didn't know how to answer. She was speechless. Master, he is a venerable. Alas, are you sure he can't hear your voice transmission? In fact, Han Guanshu had an imperceptible smile on his face. Do you think I don't know that you deliberately said that to me? But do you really think it's so easy to become my daughter-in-law? Love and love will hinder my son's cultivation. I'll keep Han Fei away from the Jade Fairy Palace in the future. On the other side, Han Guanshu and Mu Tianfang chatted for a while, and when Tang Jiyi's face turned red, they finally said goodbye. Seeing the people of the 7 major sects go away, Han Fei looked at Han Guanshu with an unkind expression. Don't you have anything for me? Han Guanshu handed over a jade slip and smiled faintly. I left you the most things. Don't be ungrateful. Han Fei thought to himself, what did you leave for me? Well, the sea-quelling painting should be related to you. Forget it, I don't lack it. There's no need to be so shameless. But when he scanned it with his mind, he found that it was the 6th level of the true spirit fishing art, which made him overjoyed. When only the people of the Thug Academy were left here, Han Guanshu officially met with Old Jiang and Old Bai. Old Jiang said, although I have long felt that there was a strong master in the Heavenly Water Village, I didn't expect it to be a venerable. Han Fei smiled gently. My son is naughty. Thank you for taking care of him, Mr. Jiang. Old Jiang muttered, he is very naughty. Han Guanshu pretended not to hear him and said with a smile, Han Fei will be a student of the Thug Academy for life. This is my promise. Old Bai said leisurely, where are you going? Han Guanshu said lightly, if I disappear, I will be a knife hanging over their heads. Old Bai nodded. That was true. A venerable was strong, but a venerable who was exposed all the time was not so powerful. He understood this. Han Fei was winking at the 3 of them. Zhang Xuanyu didn't understand what he meant, and Lu Rinquang was also dumbfounded. Your dad is here. Why can't you just say it? Luo Xiaobai said, hello, Uncle Han. It's our first time meeting. Do you have a gift? Han Fei almost burst into tears. You 2 idiots can't even understand this. Why do you have to ask Luo Xiaobai to say it? Don't you know what Luo Xiaobai is like? She is straightforward and doesn't beat around the bush. Han Guanshu chuckled and glanced at Han Fei. Sly. But Han Guanshu didn't mind. He said with a smile, I know that your team is very close, and I happen to have some opportunities for you. With that, Han Guanshu pointed a few times in the air, and golden light sank into the foreheads of the 3 of them. The next moment, the 3 of them fell into a special situation. Then Han Guanshu looked at Old Bai and Old Jiang seriously and said, the Thug Academy is going to have a disaster. I can help you, but it may be better if I don't. What do you think? Old Bai said, so the Thug Academy won't be destroyed? Han Guanshu nodded slightly to confirm. Besides, isn't this nonsense? If my son doesn't die, how can the Thug Academy be destroyed? Old Bai and Old Jiang looked at each other and smiled. Then we won't help. Han Fei felt that things might not be so simple. Since it was a disaster, there must be a big crisis. As for the benefits that old Han mentioned, it might be because of him, but he wasn't sure, so he didn't know what to say. Han Guangqiu glanced at Han Fei. You know, with me here, your situation will be even more difficult, and you can't slack off at all. So don't be greedy. You haven't become a king yet. Han Fei rolled his eyes. Okay, I got it. Aren't you going to leave? Go and be merry by yourself. I know what I'm doing. Han Guangqiu, shaking his head slightly, Han Guangqiu bowed to old Jiang and old Bai. Goodbye. Swish. Han Guangqiu left and disappeared after a while. Han Fei estimated that Han Guangqiu wouldn't return to the 4th level of the Scattered Stars prison. He was probably waiting for him there. Now, the dispute over the sea-quelling painting had come to an end. Although the danger was still there, at least a special balance had been maintained. As for how to go to the territory of the Waterwood Heaven, he could only wait for the little green vines in the demonic forest channel to be full, and wait for the leafless tree to grow leaves on its trunk. The leafless tree said that it might take 5 to 10 years, which meant that he couldn't become an explorer for at least these years. Even if he became a law enforcer, he had to wait for an opportunity. Han Fei had no doubt that once he chose to make a breakthrough in the Yin-Yang Heaven, the consequences would be severe. Han Fei immediately asked, Old Jiang, President, what should we do now? Old Bai said lightly, what can we do? It hasn't been 4 years yet. Continue to stay on the Scattered Stars Island. You've experienced a lot. It's not a good thing to grow too fast. Stay here. If you've waited enough, go climb the sky ladder. Climb the sky ladder. Only then did Han Fei remember that in the sky outside the Scattered Stars Island, there was a sky ladder that could lead directly to the Thousand-Star City. Anyway, did Old Bai and the others still choose to go back? Old Jiang said lightly, okay, brat, this time it's Old Bai's turn to stay on the Scattered Stars Island. Except for Wang Dashuai and the others, Shaoqin, Yang Xia, and Jiang Chao, go back to the Blue Sea Town with me. By the way, Han Fei, give me the Heaven Heart Lotus Seed. I'll give it to you when it's refined into a pill. 1 day later. On the Wind God boat. Luo Xiaobai and the other 2 woke up in a daze. Zhang Xuanyu said, Fei Fei. Where are we? Chapter 967. Zhang Xuanyu and Luo Xiaobai woke up one after another. At this moment, the few of them were dumbfounded. Then, their faces turned to shock. Zhang Xuanyu roared, Han Fei, your father gave me a bunch of stick techniques. Hiss. No, I'm going to cultivate in seclusion. I'm too inspired. Lu Rinquang said delightedly, Uncle Han gave me a set of knife techniques. What a powerful knife technique. I'm going to cultivate in seclusion too. Han Fei looked at Luo Xiaobai indifferently. Luo Xiaobai said, Uncle Han showed me a lot of manipulators' battles, but he didn't give me any inheritance. Han Fei nodded lazily. I don't think he knows any, so he can only show you the pictures. Zhang Xuanyu said happily, Hey. Fei Fei, Uncle Han is gone. Don't be sad. He's gone. He can protect you better. Don't panic. Han Fei rolled his eyes. Why should I panic? I just feel that I don't have any pursuit anymore. Zhang Xuanyu was stunned. Why don't you have any goals? Han Fei spread out his hands. Then what do you think I should do now? The Scattered Stars Island is probably going to go to the sea to look for secret realms. Luo Xiaobai said, go back and settle down for a while. You've gained a lot here. You should have a lot of weapons on you, which can be exchanged for a lot of resources. Han Fei thought about it and realized that it made sense. He did have a lot of resources, which could be exchanged for spiritual energy fruits. No matter what happened in the future, he definitely needed resources. He had to get at least 1 billion points of spiritual energy first. Apart from spiritual energy, high-quality pearls were meaningless. He needed some credit points, but he still had 8 million, which was enough to buy a lot of things. Han Fei was refreshed. Okay, let's settle down for a few months first. The Empyrean Waterfall. As soon as Han Fei arrived home, he found that a large group of people had gathered at his door. The sky was full of people. On his roof, in his yard, and above the Empyrean waterfall, strong masters were gathered. Lu Renquang sighed. Fei Fei. Did these people come to pick a fight with you because you got the sea-quelling painting? Luo Xiaobai said, many people in the Empyrean waterfall want to become a law enforcer. Seeing Han Fei come back, many people looked at him strangely and enviously, thinking, if this guy doesn't die, he may become a real king in the future. Although this was not absolute, no one was stupid. The sea-quelling bizarre treasure was so rare. It would be strange if it didn't have any benefits. How long had it been since Han Fei became a hidden fisher? He had already become an advanced hidden fisher. Besides, since Han Fei had walked through the boneyard, it meant that Han Fei had found the way. The barrier to becoming a law enforcer could be ignored. As long as he cultivated normally, breaking through to become a law enforcer was inevitable. Meow. With a swish, Big Yellow pounced at Han Fei. Meow, Han Fei, give my friend back to me. I just met a new friend, and you chased me out. Holding Big Yellow, Han Fei said, don't panic. There are so many people here. When everyone disperses, I'll release your little friend. Li Luoluo waved and said, Han Fei, I don't need your help anymore. I can become a law enforcer now. Han Fei forced a smile. Congratulations, congratulations. Granny Yin yelled, Big Yellow, what are you doing? Come down, come down. Meow. Qing Chen slipped to Han Fei's side and looked at Han Fei with a strange look. Amazing. You're back. Ning Jingyao sighed. It's a pity. This time, I didn't even see the mist of 9 sounds. Yi sighed. However, it's not all for naught. At least you can become a law enforcer now. The group of people started talking at once. Chu Linyuan and the others hadn't arrived yet. They came back at the same time as Han Fei, but on a different fishing boat, and their fishing boat was slightly slower. At this moment, while dealing with the crowd, Han Fei looked at Wu Ming, who was standing on the Empyrean waterfall, and was a little surprised. Wu Ming is the first. Old man Yi Qingfeng held a centipede and said lightly, 3 people have become law enforcers, and old man Nangong Xian is the first. It will take at least 3 days for these people to all make the breakthrough. As he spoke, a spiritual energy vortex formed, the void shook, and there was a faint roar as if the law had descended. After a full hour, Wu Ming suddenly opened his eyes, and sword light darted out. Law enforcer, sword soul. Behind Wu Ming, a phantom long sword appeared, and the sword intense soared into the sky. Ning Jingyao roared, Wu Ming, what is this law? Wu Ming said lightly, it condenses a wisp of sword soul between heaven and earth, a sword of law. Wu Ming just explained lightly and didn't show it. Amidst the congratulatory words, he nodded slightly and went back into seclusion. Ning Jingyao couldn't wait to rush over. Me next, I'll do it. Han Fei and the other 3 looked at each other. Are law enforcers so casual nowadays? Do they have to fight for the position first? Lu Renquang sighed. I think I'd better go back and cultivate in seclusion. I feel that I'm not strong enough now. Han Fei was lost for words. You can just cultivate in seclusion here. Alas, forget it. I'm not in a hurry. I still have a lot of resources to exchange. 3 days later. When the last person successfully became a law enforcer, a large number of people in the Empyrean waterfall suddenly disappeared. Some people were transferred away to guard various places and replenish their strength. After Han Fei released the 2 cat creatures, he finally got a quiet yard. At this moment, Han Fei was sitting at home, counting the spoils of war, 3,564 ultra-quality spiritual weapons, which doesn't seem to be a lot. 301 semi-divine weapons, most of which were robbed. 23 low-quality divine weapons, which are a windfall, 3 mid-quality divine weapons, which were taken from the 3 corpses in the Sounding Snake mine. 2 ultra-quality divine weapons, the Cosmic Sword, and Sun Mu's sword. Plus what I got from the snake cave, I have a total of 840,000 caddies of spirit awakening fluid left. The spiritual spring I robbed and the rest I have is 140,000 caddies, which is equivalent to 140 million points of spiritual energy. Plus the black bead, I have 340 million points of spiritual energy, 8 million credit points, and Lu Renquan took 5 million to get resources. As for the messy spiritual plants he obtained in the underground city, it was purely Han Fei's hobby. Han Fei was also trying to preserve the species. Of course, it was mainly for food, so it didn't count. However, seeing so many things, Han Fei was a little depressed. What should I do? Sometimes, there were too many things and he didn't know what to do. Whatever, let's go to the market first. Refining hall. Of course, Han Fei came here not for refining but to sell weapons. In the shopping guide's office, as soon as Han Fei appeared, a group of girls immediately surrounded him. One of the girls was the fastest. With a swoosh, she appeared in front of Han Fei. Master Han Fei, are you going to make a big move this time? Han Fei grinned and said, haha, you've noticed it already. The girl's eyes narrowed with a smile. Of course, Master Han Fei always makes a big move every time you come here. Han Fei pondered for a while. Is it not enough for you alone? Han Fei directly leaned against the shopping guide's office, greeting a group of shopping guides. Everyone, to tell you the truth, I have a large number of materials for sale. There are ultra-quality spiritual weapons and semi-divine weapons. You can help me guide the customers. For every successful transaction, I can get a rebate of 2 points. How about it? In an instant, a total of 21 shopping guides all came over with a swish. Immediately, a girl said, Master Han Fei, it's no problem to guide the customers, but during this period, the price of ultra-quality spiritual weapons and semi-divine weapons has fallen. How do you want to sell them? Han Fei was stunned. The price has fallen. Why has it fallen? The girl said, all of a sudden, a large number of ultra-quality spiritual weapons and semi-divine weapons emerged. At first, they sold like crazy. As a result, the market price of ultra-quality spiritual weapons dropped by more than 30%. Even semi-divine weapons were reduced by 20%. After all, there are not many people who can afford semi-divine weapons. Han Fei's face turned green. Of course, he knew why a large number of ultra-quality spiritual weapons and semi-divine weapons suddenly emerged. They must have been obtained on the ancient battlefield. Besides, if he wanted to sell them quickly, if the price was only 30% lower than before, he would not be competitive at all. Immediately, Han Fei calculated. An ultra-quality spiritual weapon with a sealed spirit was usually worth about 40,000 points of credit. In this case, wouldn't he get a 50% discount? Han Fei immediately gritted his teeth. I'll give you a 50% discount. However, you can only exchange them with spiritual spring and spiritual fruits. No points or high-quality pearls. The eyes of the group of shopping guides suddenly lit up. No wonder you are Master Han Fei. You are so domineering. The shopping guides all said, Master Han Fei, don't worry. Your shop will definitely have a continuous stream of customers. After a moment, Han Fei rented a shop of about 200 square meters and hung more than 500 ultra-quality spiritual weapons. Han Fei calculated carefully. Even if I give a 50% discount on an ultra-quality spiritual weapon, I won't lose anything. Anyway, these ultra-quality spiritual weapons were all picked up by the locals. A spiritual weapon cost 20,000 points, which could be exchanged for about 20 spiritual fruits. In terms of spiritual spring, it would be about 1,500 caddies. However, the price of spiritual fruits was fluctuating. The more he collected, the higher the price would be. I wonder if I'll be able to exchange for all the spiritual fruits I have left? Han Fei was hanging a banner with the words, 50% off, big sale at a loss, written on it. Outside, a group of girls were frantically sending voice transmissions through their star waist tags. Hurry up, Master Han Fei has taken action. Exchange for ultra-quality spiritual weapons with spiritual spring and spiritual fruits. Come on. San Air, there's a big movement in the refining hall. 50% off. Come on. Meng, hurry up and ask for leave, oh no. Hurry up and tell your captain that there's a 50% discount. Chapter 968. Although the refining hall was lively, it was not a vegetable market after all. Moreover, most people would buy things for themselves first. If they couldn't afford it, they would share the good news with others. Of course, when some people saw Han Fei's banner, they immediately sent messages to him or immediately went to look for resources. But in any case, there were already more than 60 people in Han Fei's shop now. He glanced around quickly. Master Han Fei, is it really half price? My shop has been hung up. How can it be fake? Someone was holding a long sword, reluctant to let go of it. He asked tentatively, Master Han Fei, I only have 18 spiritual fruits here. Why don't you keep this sword for me? I'll go to the logistics division to exchange for it right now. Han Fei raised his eyelids. No. I am serving the people. Do you think I am greedy for your 2 spiritual fruits? Come on, 18 spiritual fruits. Take the weapon. The man was overjoyed. Thank you, Master Han Fei. Someone wanted a big axe. He took out his sea-swallowing seashell and looked at it, looking a little embarrassed. Han Fei immediately said, yes, it's you. What's the matter? Tell me. The man said, Master Han Fei, I found that I only have 800 caddies of spiritual spring and only 7 spiritual fruits. There may be a big gap. Han Fei thought about it. It seemed that there was a gap, but it was about the same. Who cares? Anyway, they were all things that he picked up. It was equivalent to a slight discount. Han Fei immediately said, Don't panic. Let me have a look at your sea-swallowing seashell. If you are not lying to me, I will give you a discount. It's not easy for everyone. The man was overjoyed. Master Han Fei, here you are. Han Fei glanced at him and thought, how poor. Immediately, Han Fei said with a smile, You're lucky that you met me. I am serving the people. It's just an axe. Take it away. Hearing Han Fei's words, the group of people immediately shouted. Master Han Fei, I want to buy 2, but I don't have enough money. Master Han Fei, can I buy them wholesale? Han Fei immediately perked up. Wholesale? Come here. Come, let's have a good talk. 2 hours later, when Han Fei was stuffing weapons into people's hands, he saw a shop assistant shouting, Everyone, follow me. You'll get the best discount if you follow me. Come on, Han Fei was overjoyed. Why are you standing outside? Come in, look around, and pick whatever you like. If you don't like it, it's free. 2 hours later. On a certain coast, someone shouted, Brothers, good news, good news. Master Han Fei of the refining hall is selling ultra-quality spiritual weapons at a 50% discount. Let's go, Hell Beach. Someone roared, Little bastards. Quickly count the spirit spring and spirit fruits you have on you, then follow me to the refining hall. A patrolling team around the island. Brothers, get on the boat. I'll tell you the big news on the way. Fishermen's Union, stop fishing. Let's go to the refining hall in the west of the city. There's a huge sale on supreme-grade spiritual weapons. In an instant, the whole city responded. There was a huge crowd at the entrance of the refining hall. More than 20 shop assistants were registering in small notebooks and distributing numbers. At this moment, the number had reached 2,000. Someone shouted, Don't worry, everyone, don't worry. Master Han Fei said that you can buy anything within 3,000. Each person is limited to 1. Someone organized the crowd. Don't panic. Let's see if we have enough resources first. Only about 2,000 people were given their numbers, mainly because the others were collecting spiritual spring and spiritual fruits. The opposite logistics division was already overcrowded. All of them were exchanging points for spiritual spring and spiritual fruits. In the logistics division, hundreds of staff members were shouting frantically at their waist tags, "Hurry up, is the spiritual spring enough? If not, transfer it from the east and south of the city." Someone responded, "I don't know if the spiritual spring is enough, but the spiritual fruits are running out." Was he out of his mind? Why did he take out so many spiritual weapons at once? Someone joked, "More than that. It's said that the ultra-quality spiritual weapons are sold out." He also wants to sell semi-divine weapons, limited to 300 people. Wow. Old Wang. Let's keep some of the spiritual spring and spiritual fruits for ourselves. I also want semi-divine weapons. Yes, I have already informed them to leave 1,000,000 caddies of spiritual spring and 3,000 spiritual fruits. Don't touch them. Except for the West City. For some reason, the refining halls in the North, South, and East City were suddenly deserted. Some people also came back from the ancient battlefield. At this moment, they looked dumbfounded. Where are the people of the refining hall? Why are they all gone? Someone was depressed. Something is wrong. Just now, someone told me that he went to collect resources. Why is there no one left now? Huh? Did your customers also run out of resources? Oh. You're gone too. Suddenly, a shop owner rushed in and roared, "Something's wrong, something big has happened. I heard that the guy named Han Fei from the refining hall in the West City is selling ultra-quality spiritual weapons at a 50% discount. Son of a bitch, he is selling semi-divine weapons. Fuck. 50% discount? Is he crazy?" Someone's expression was uncertain. Just how much did he rob from that place? Someone gritted his teeth. No. We can't do business anymore. If he continues to sell like this, won't our inventory go to waste? Someone shouted, "Even if he sells at a high price, we'll also get a 50% discount. Anyway, we'll make a profit. If we continue to delay, we may really lose our inventory." Someone was speechless. Are you stupid? How many people are there on the Scattered Stars Island? He can easily find hundreds of thousands of people. Just let him sell them first. It'll just take us a little longer and we'll definitely be able to sell them. Central City. City Lord's Mansion. Marshal, Han Fei is frantically collecting spiritual spring and spiritual fruits. Now many people who come out of the ancient battlefield are selling ultra-quality spiritual weapons at a 50% discount. If this goes on, the spiritual spring and spiritual fruits of the logistics division will be in urgent need. Shueishenqi was reading an ancient book and threw a sun-moon shell over without raising his head. There are 5,000,000 caddies of spiritual spring and 10,000 spiritual fruits here. Put them in the logistics division. The man said in surprise, "Marshal, these are your own resources." Shueishenqi said indifferently, "These things are of no use to me. Release the news that the ancient battlefield is about to open. It will be one of the trial places of the Scattered Stars Island in the future." The newcomer was surprised. "Marshal, isn't that place too dangerous for ordinary people?" Shueishenqi said lightly, "Build a water base and send law enforcers there. Arrange the number of people according to the Sea of Pearls. Lower the price of ultra-quality spiritual weapons once and for all. 50% discount is good." "Yes, Marshal." After a moment, Shueishenqi gently put down the ancient book in his hand and smiled faintly. 8 years, refining hall. Han Fei said, one by one. "Don't panic." "Who's that?" "You haven't paid the money yet." "Why?" "Come here and pay the money." Han Fei said, "Number 1682, what do you want?" The man hurriedly said, "Captain, it's me." Han Fei glanced at him and found him a little familiar. He asked tentatively, "Are you from the 8th Battalion?" The man nodded quickly. Han Fei pondered for a moment. "Okay. 40% discount. Thank you, Captain. At this moment, a voice came from inside and outside the refining hall. Notification, notification. At the request of Marshal Shui, the ruins of the ancient battlefield in the outer sea will be open to all hidden fishers in half a month. Half a year later, it will be open to everyone. The ancient battlefield has a large number of lost ultra-quality spiritual weapons, semi-divine weapons, and even divine weapons. In 3 days, the relevant information about the ancient battlefield will be officially announced and everyone can read it. Wow! For a moment, the entire Scattered Stars Island was in an uproar. Suddenly, all the people who bought things paused. So, these ultra-quality spiritual weapons were all obtained by Han Fei in the ancient battlefield? Someone sighed. No wonder there have been more ultra-quality spiritual weapons recently. It turns out that these were all robbed. Han Fei curled his lips. Is Shueishenqi trying to suppress the price of weapons? He must be. However, the creatures in the ancient battlefield were very strong. It was not a big problem for hidden fishers to go there. Even hanging fishers had a slim chance of survival. The reason why it was open to hidden fishers was to let them go in and clear the battlefield. In this way, after half a year, there would only be some weak soul eaters left inside, which would be enough for peak-level hanging fishers to gain experience. Han Fei shouted, "Don't even think about it." These ultra-quality spiritual weapons were dug out from the ancient battlefield. However, I warn you, if you haven't become a hidden fisher, don't go there rashly. Any creature inside is at the level of a hidden fisher. Wow! What a terrifying secret realm. All of them are hidden fishers. So, a few days ago, the whole army was dispatched and so many strong masters died. Did they all go to this so-called ancient battlefield? After shouting, Han Fei had a headache. Shueishenqi is so cruel. Those who bought semi-divine weapons were basically hidden fishers, and half of them were peak-level hanging fishers. They could go to explore the ancient battlefield after a while. Then how could he sell them at a 30% discount? No, at least for now, there are still some semi-divine weapons. I'll sell them at a 40% discount. That's it. Until the night. In Han Fei's shop, there were only more than 200 ultra-quality spiritual weapons left. Han Fei shouted to the outside, "The ultra-quality spiritual weapons are almost sold out. Let's see if the remaining ones are what you want. If not, there's nothing I can do. By the way, the semi-divine weapons will be on sale in half an hour at a 40% discount. You can go now." Immediately, many people holding semi-divine weapon number plates began to get excited. It's my turn. I'm number 1. Ha, semi-divine weapons. Someone wondered, didn't you say 30% off in the promotion? Someone rolled his eyes and said, didn't you hear the news just now? The ancient battlefield is about to be opened, and semi-divine weapons may also be dug out. At this moment, the price is so high. If there are too many semi-divine weapons later, won't our reputation be ruined? After a moment, when more than 300 semi-divine weapons were put up for sale, everyone was dumbfounded. Gulp. Someone swallowed. Master Han Fei, how many semi-divine weapons have you dug out? Chapter 969. 3 days later. Han Fei's net worth reached the richest moment in history. More than 3,500 supreme-grade spiritual weapons, 3.02 million caddies of spiritual spring and more than 23,000 spiritual fruits. And 301 semi-divine weapons were worth a lot. In the end, after deducting 2% commission, there was a total of 4.6 million caddies of spiritual spring left, which was equivalent to 4.6 billion points of spiritual energy, almost 5 billion. There were 47,840 spiritual fruits, which were worth at least 7 billion spiritual energy. During this period, Lu Renquang also sent over the resources he collected. However, compared with Han Fei's current net worth, it was nothing. At this moment, the number of spiritual fruits on Han Fei had reached 55,000. As for low-quality and mid-quality divine weapons, Han Fei certainly wouldn't sell them. At this moment, money no longer mattered. These divine weapons needed to be refined into a blood-drinking saber, a seal, a fishing rod, and a staff. The chances of it being forged into a high-grade divine weapon should not be high. Coincidentally, he had 2 supreme-grade divine armaments and 3 medial-grade divine armaments. It should not be a problem for him to combine the 3 medial-grade divine armaments into a high-grade divine armament. The Empyrean Waterfall. When Han Fei opened the mist array at home, he couldn't help but sigh. The power of the demon purification pot is not enough to make an ultra-quality divine weapon. Looks like I'll have to wait until I get the 3rd vine. Han Fei intended to refine an ultra-quality divine weapon. However, he soon discovered a problem. It consumed a lot of spiritual energy, but the progress of the supreme-grade divine weapon was extremely slow. If he wanted to forcibly refine it, he would need a huge amount of spiritual energy. Although he didn't lack spirit chi now, it wasn't necessary. Even if he refined a supreme-grade divine weapon, he wouldn't be able to unleash his full strength. As for a mid-quality divine weapon, according to his cultivation speed, he should be able to exert its full power after becoming a peak-level hidden fisher or a law enforcer. Therefore, the 2 ultra-quality divine weapons were still lying in Forge the Universe. As for the 3 mid-grade divine weapons, he refined a blood-imbibing saber, a golden seal, and a dragon rod. Han Fei felt that naming was too troublesome. He couldn't just change the name every time his equipment leveled up, right? Therefore, it was better to continue using it. As for the fishing rod, it was called the Dragon Burial Rod. Han Fei thought it was a good name and could use it in the future. 3 months later. By the pool of the Empyrean Waterfall. A man and a cat sat on a rock, fishing. Between the man and the cat, there were 2 plates of fruits on a rock. There were even rare fruits like pineapples. Baji. While pulling the fishing rod, Han Fei ate the pineapple and said, "Big Yellow. If you continue to cause trouble like this, there won't be enough cats." Baji. Big Yellow bit off half of the pineapple and said gloomily, "I only wanted to give birth, but they died. Am I destined to be lonely for the rest of my life?" Han Fei sighed. "So, you might be the unique cat." Crash. A red blood butterfly fish was pulled up by Big Yellow. Pfft. Big Yellow stabbed it to death with its paw. After killing the red blood butterfly fish, Big Yellow did not eat it but looked at Han Fei. "Why didn't you catch any?" Han Fei said casually, "I didn't catch any fish. The red blood butterfly fish are mediocre." Big Yellow said, "Your strength doesn't seem to have changed." Han Fei smiled. "I'm digesting it." Big Yellow asked, "Will it take so long?" Han Fei sneered. "Long? Look at yourself. How dare you say it's long? It'll take me at most 3 months. Yes, the price to pay for the improvement of strength was not small, mainly because after eating the so-called source water, Han Fei temporarily changed his path of advancement from pain mode to hell mode. Now his physique was too strong. He had been grinding for 3 months, but he couldn't even break through the small barrier. Of course, this was only temporary. When Han Fei completely broke in, the path of advancement would open. Before going to the 1,000-star city, it shouldn't be a problem for him to become a law enforcer. However, during this period of time, it was really too boring. Luo Xiaobai and the others were different from him. They had their own path. If they didn't work hard, they might not be able to keep up with him. And Han Fei seemed to have really become the kind of genius that was hard to come by in 100 years or even in 1,000 years. He couldn't guarantee it in other places, but here, he was already a genius. If he hadn't obtained the source water, he wouldn't have been so strong. But now, no one was willing to fight Wu Ming and the others. The reason was that Han Fei was very strong. If he didn't use a secret method, he wouldn't be able to beat the other party with all his strength. If he used a secret method, the other party would just give up because he couldn't fight anymore. Besides, the changes brought about by the source water and the growth of strength were slightly different. For example, the agility of wind performed by the phantom glass wings changed from the original speed of 3 times to the current speed of 4 times. The 10 times explosive power of devil change became 8 times explosive power. It seemed that with the strengthening of his physique, the effect of devil change had also weakened correspondingly. In this case, Han Fei tried to fight with a junior peak-level law enforcer. As long as the other party's power of law couldn't suppress him, there was no way he could win. For a time, Han Fei felt that he had no pursuit and could only wait for a breakthrough. "Human, you haven't exchanged things with me for a long time." The big turtle's voice sounded in Han Fei's mind. Han Fei thought to himself, "What can you give me now? I have more than 80,000 caddies of spirit awakening fluid. Now little Fatty and the others are also settling down, and I don't even have a chance to use it." Besides, Han Fei also confirmed another thing: spirit awakening fluid had little effect on law enforcers. The reason was that spirit awakening fluid was a law, and law enforcers could enforce the law. The two contradicted each other. If he wanted it, there were a lot of it in the sea quelling painting. However, the tree spirit said that he couldn't take too much spirit awakening fluid. It had a stabilizing effect. Otherwise, Han Fei could have taken it directly from the sea quelling painting. So Han Fei said casually, "Senior Turtle, what do you want to exchange for now? 3 months ago, there were so many law enforcers. The power of this seal can't suppress you for many years, right? Why are you in such a hurry?" The big turtle was silent for a moment. "I can make it cheaper." Han Fei couldn't help rolling his eyes. "I won't buy it even if it's cheaper." He couldn't help saying, "Senior, we have nothing to do anyway. Let's chat. Where does the spring under you lead to?" The big turtle was silent and didn't speak. Han Fei looked around and said via voice transmission, "Senior, to be honest, I don't need the spirit awakening fluid at all. Besides, when you come out, the big hole under you will show up sooner or later. Why don't you tell me now? I'll go to the outer sea immediately, find a nest of sea demons, destroy it, and grab some demonic stones for you. What do you think?" The big turtle said leisurely, "Actually, it's not as complicated as you think." Han Fei said carelessly, "It's not complicated. Just tell me." Maybe it was because Han Fei often came to fish to kill time, or maybe it was because the big turtle knew that he was not far away from unsealing, but he didn't expect it to tell him. The big turtle said, "Actually, what I'm holding is the broken corpse of a deep-sea giant demon." Humph. Suddenly, someone snorted in the air, and the big turtle was speechless. And Han Fei was shocked. What did it mean? Deep-sea giant demon? Han Fei counted with his fingers. The sea spirit realm, breaking the spirit realm, seeking the way, entering the way to be venerable, fuck. The corpse of a king realm giant demon. Han Fei was enlightened and instantly understood why the sea demons attacked the Scattered Stars Island. Why did human beings defend the Scattered Stars Island? Who knew if the corpse of a king-level powerhouse could be created? If the sea demons got this corpse, what if someone became a king-level powerhouse with its broken body? How could the 1,000-star city resist them? A voice came from the air straight to the bottom of the pool. "Old turtle, don't think that this kid will be your opportunity." Han Fei didn't know the conversation between Shueishenqi and the old turtle. On the surface of the pool, Shueishenqi's phantom appeared. "In 3 months, I don't care what you do, but you can't stay on the Scattered Stars Island." Han Fei was stunned. "Huh? Why?" Shueishenqi said indifferently, "The day when the old turtle's seal is unsealed is the day when human beings and sea demons fight. There are still 8 years left. Your father expects you to become a king. Do you really think it's so easy? Even the sea demons know that you can find a way to cross the barrier of the explorer realm, but what about the venerable realm? What is Tao? Have you ever thought about it?" Han Fei narrowed his eyes. To become an explorer, he had to go to the waterwood sky. It didn't seem easy to become a venerable. 8 years seemed a bit short. But why 8 years? Shueishenqi continued, if you want to become a king, you must participate in the battle 8 years later. Han Fei didn't care about this. If he wanted to become a king, maybe he would have to gain the recognition of many people. With the big clans of the Thousand-Star City pushing him, it would be hard for him not to participate in the battle. However, he asked, since this matter is so important, why let everyone become a law enforcer here and shorten the time for the old turtle to come out? If we let Senior Turtle out in advance, won't we start the battle ahead of time? Shueishenqi said with a cold face, there are some things you don't understand. Do you think the king-level corpse is so simple? It's a corpse full of Tao, which can derive countless spirit-awakening fluid. Otherwise, where do you think the undersea chimney came from? Do you really think the old turtle wants resources to come out? Han Fei's heart trembled. What does he mean? The old turtle wants resources not to come out, but to suppress the entrance of the cave. Han Fei quickly shook his head and said, didn't they say that only when one becomes a law enforcer will Senior Turtle come out in advance? It was said that it could take decades, but now it has become 8 years. Isn't it because he became a law enforcer? Shueishenqi looked at Han Fei seriously. If you hadn't obtained the opportunity to become a king, I wouldn't have told you this. What you said is just what was announced to the outside world. In fact, this is not the case. It's not that becoming a law enforcer will make the old turtle come out in advance, but that becoming a law enforcer can absorb some Tao, which can reduce the pressure on the old turtle and let it stay longer. Wow! Han Fei was dumbfounded. So, everyone was kept in the dark. In fact, Shueishenqi and the old turtle were lying to him. Han Fei suddenly stood up. Then, if everyone hadn't become a law enforcer 3 months ago, how long could Senior Turtle have lasted? Shueishenqi's expression remained unchanged. 3 years. Han Fei. Chapter 970. Han Fei was shocked when Shueishenqi explained it to him in person. What he meant was that without collective law enforcement, the real full-scale war between humans and sea demons would break out in 3 years. At this moment, Han Fei seemed to understand something. He suddenly asked, can the bottomless pit in the transverse mountain really collect spirit-awakening fluid? Shueishenqi said lightly, very little. Han Fei realized that most of the spirit-awakening fluid of the logistics division of the Scattered Stars Island probably came from the old turtle. Han Fei wondered, in this case, why doesn't the spirit-awakening fluid be sold at a lower price? Shueishenqi grinned and said, the spirit-awakening fluid is not only the key, but also of little use even if we sell it now. Shueishenqi said leisurely, the reason why a full-scale war hasn't broken out now is that the king's body has not been completely melted. This is what we've been suppressing. Once the king's body is melted, a great Tao will appear and may collapse at any time. This is also the reason why the sea demons must get this corpse. It does represent an opportunity to become a king. However, this opportunity is not ours. Han Fei took a deep breath and said, is it about to start melting now? Shueishenqi nodded slightly. Yes. Han Fei took a deep breath again. What should I do? Shueishenqi said, the old turtle needs to consume energy. You can grab some demonic stones, energy, and the like. Ownerless souls are also okay, but I don't think you can get them. Han Fei asked, then should I go to sea now? Han Fei had a hunch that if he wanted to become a king, he had to pay more attention to the old turtle. It was like how he got the power of faith from those people in the sea-quelling painting. A full-scale war was naturally not good for many people. However, it might also be an opportunity for him. Shueishenqi shook his head slightly. These things are not urgent, but it's better than nothing. Even if you bring a mountain of demonic stones, it can only last for another 2 years. It's meaningful, but not very meaningful. Now, what you need to figure out is what you should do. From the moment you got the sea-quelling painting, you have been obliged to pay for this unconditionally. Because, in a sense, you are the one who is most likely to become a king. Han Fei swallowed. I'm just a hidden fisher. What can I do? Shueishenqi said indifferently, this matter is related to you. Destroying the sea demons and cleaning up the 10,000 Demon Valley is also related to you. However, you don't have the ability to do it now. So, we will help you hold it down. However, some people in the Thousand-Star City are already trying to blame you for this. Now that I'm telling you all this, from another perspective, I'm helping them. Han Fei remembered what old Han said. Those big clans in the Thousand-Star City couldn't kill him openly, so they threw such a big thing to him. If this was done, it was only natural. If he didn't do it well, they might put all the blame on him and make him the scapegoat. Moreover, he was the biggest scapegoat in history. Han Fei didn't feel good at all. This is so tricky. Shueishenqi's phantom disappeared. Han Fei sat down on the stone. Not in the mood to fish anymore, he put away the fishing rod and sat cross-legged on the stone. What should I do now? After confirming that Shueishenqi had left, Big Yellow turned from a dead cat to a living cat and asked quietly, Han Fei, what did you say? Han Fei waved his hand and sighed. This is the sadness of humans. You cats don't understand. Big Yellow, Han Fei knew that when he got used to the opportunities he had, he would definitely go to sea. Therefore, going to sea to find demonic stones was not an important thing. In other words, there were still 3 months before he went to sea. He couldn't accompany a cat fishing every day, could he? Han Fei immediately fell into deep thought. If he were a king and wanted to lead many people to fight a war, how would he fight? In order to win the war, how could he do it? The first was to launch a sneak attack and kill the other party first by using trickery. But this method was problematic. The 10,000 Demon Valley was similar to the Scattered Stars Island. There were hundreds of thousands of half-mermaids, hundreds of thousands of red demons, and countless inferior man-fish. In this kind of war, it was useless to sneak around. The second one was to improve the strength of his own people. This one was more feasible. However, on the path of cultivation, if he wanted to become stronger quickly, he needed resources, a lot of resources, a huge amount of resources. But how could he get resources alone? How long was this going to take? In this case, it was a good thing that he lowered the market price of ultra-quality spiritual weapons to 50%. Suddenly, Han Fei froze. Yes. It was useless to do small things, and he couldn't get many resources. Why not start with equipment? As for equipment, one was something like the Refining Divine platform, which would solve everything once and for all. The other was to increase the number of refining masters. Han Fei got up. Big Yellow, you can go fishing by yourself in the future. I'm going to work. Meow. Before Big Yellow spoke, Han Fei flew out with a swish and went straight to the Scattered Stars 7th unit. The Scattered Stars 4th unit. A group of a dozen people was resting and making a bunch of drinks. At this moment, they were chatting. At the same time, these people were also studying the style of clothes and how to make them look good. Someone laughed and said, now that the ancient battlefield is open, the pressure on us has been greatly reduced. Finally, we don't have to refine weapons all day long. Slurp. Mu Jia hiccuped. I heard that the swindler made a lot of money. He robbed more than 3,000 ultra-quality spiritual weapons and more than 300 semi-divine weapons. Now, he is the richest one. Xie Qingqing smiled. Then why don't you marry him? Isn't it good to be a little rich woman? Mu Jia blushed and was furious. My family is richer than him. My family is rich. Gu Nan laughed. Mu Jia, then tell me who you like. Or, Qing Yan is good. He's handsome. Mu Jia, snorted. He's wooden, cold, and only knows how to refine weapons. Huh, where is he? Someone laughed and said, isn't your question obvious? What else does Qing Yan do besides studying those refining devices? Suddenly, Han Fei appeared at the entrance. Ha! Liar, why are you here? Han Fei glanced around and saw a large group of people drinking here. He couldn't help but be surprised. Why aren't you refining? Are you so free now? Xie Qingqing smiled and said, thanks to the opening of the ancient battlefield. Now, a large number of ultra-quality spiritual weapons have just been digested. We need to wait until we have some funds. I guess we'll be busy again in a month or so. Gu Nan said, however, we won't be as busy as before. I heard that many hidden fishers dug ultra-quality spiritual weapons from the ancient battlefield and brought them back. Our pressure will be reduced. Suddenly, someone said, Han Fei, why do you want to return to the Scattered Stars 4th unit? Are you going to treat us to a meal because you've made a fortune? Han Fei thought to himself, why would I treat you? Han Fei skipped the question and asked, Jia, have you finished studying my refining device? Mu Jia, was speechless. How long has it been? I heard from Guan Shui that you've only figured out half of the array combinations. It will take at least a few months for you to solve them. Finally, you have to build that platform. Then, you have to experiment. It's still early. Han Fei was speechless. Then why are you still drinking here? Where is old Guan? Mu Jia, said angrily, it's better than you not coming at all. All you know is to slack off, lazy bum. Han Fei scratched his nose. Oh. I've been bored recently, haven't I? I'm here to share some of the pressure for everyone. I'm going to live here in the future. Huh? What? Did I hear you right? You're going to share the pressure for us? Everyone was shocked. Han Fei said he was going to share the pressure for everyone. Immediately, someone yelled, Han Fei. I still have 100 quests. Do you want them? Someone sighed. I have some too. How about I give them to you? Han Fei rolled his eyes. I'm not helping you with refining. I'm here to build a platform. Forget it. You won't understand me anyway. Where is old Guan? I'm here for old Guan. Mu Jia, pointed inside and said, in the innermost refining room. Then, Mu Jia, followed him and said in a low voice, liar, have you been stimulated recently? I heard something. Han Fei said angrily, how can I be stimulated? I'm just here to contribute to mankind. Mu Jia, after Han Fei entered Guan Qingyan's refining room, he was a little stunned. Is this still a refining room? This is the workshop of a mad scientist. Guan Qingyan was sitting on the ground, with a pile of books next to him and a pile of messy materials in front of him. Seeing that someone came in, he kicked them out without even raising his head. Jia, go out and play by yourself. I'm busy. Mu Jia, Han Fei couldn't help but smile. Old Guan, you're really working hard. Hearing Han Fei's voice, Guan Qingyan immediately raised his head and said with a glint in his eyes, Brother Han. Why are you here? Han Fei said with a smile, I'm here to help you build a platform. Guan Qingyan was obviously stunned for a moment and said in disbelief, are you sure? Han Fei patted his chest and said, I'm sure. If I can't build a platform, I'll live here. Immediately, Guan Qingyan stood up. Very good, Brother Han, come here. There are still many things I don't understand. Here. Here. And here. Mu Jia, was speechless. The two of them talked about such boring things as soon as they met. How boring. She immediately stomped her feet. Fine, you two can spend it together. Chapter 971. Just like this, Han Fei lived in the Scattered Stars 4th unit. For 3 days in a row, he was focused on discussing and studying with Guan Qingyan. Therefore, Han Fei directly shocked Bei Hua and the others, wondering if Han Fei had changed his personality. At this moment, in the refining room, Guan Qingyan had learned a lot in the past few days and had long regarded Han Fei as his confidant. At this moment, he was sorting out the principles of this refining platform that he had figured out. However, Han Fei always called it a refining furnace. In this way, it could be distinguished from the refining divine platform. Otherwise, what if someone suspected him in the future? At this moment, Han Fei had long stopped studying with Guan Qingyan. He found that the biggest problem was the combination of arrays. Although he had described the effect that should be achieved after the combination of arrays. However, it was extremely difficult to achieve this effect. And on the Scattered Stars Island, Han Fei felt that even the most brilliant array masters could hardly surpass Old Jiang. At this moment, after Old Jiang left, Han Fei felt that he might as well do it in person. Therefore, the ocean book that Han Fei hadn't studied was put on the agenda. Among the arrays, the most commonly used were killing arrays, defensive arrays, and some auxiliary arrays, such as breath concealment, spirit gathering, puzzle, soundproof, etc. In fact, the creation of arrays was fundamentally based on needs. No matter what kind of needs, as long as one persisted in studying them, one could always create corresponding arrays. For example, when Han Fei drew crayfish for the first time on the 4th level of the Scattered Stars prison, he drew thousands of arrays, only to cause an explosion. In fact, it was also an innovative array. At this moment, Han Fei sat cross-legged, and in his mind, the lines in the ocean book were unraveled one by one. Because it was just a simulation, Han Fei wouldn't suffer any substantial attacks. This was the power of the demon purification pot. The demon purification pot had completely memorized the complicated ocean book after reading it once. Furthermore, he was able to record every single formation through the lines. A killing array. No, not what I want. A maze array. This maze array is a bit interesting. It's a bit like a strange array, but it has nothing to do with refining. An extension of the spirit gathering array to gather the essence of water? Wow, this array is good. In the future, when I explode the infinity water, I can use it to quickly restore the infinity water. After studying for 2 days, Han Fei had studied about 1/10 of the ocean book array. He had a general understanding of the situation. But do you want to use it as you please? But it was definitely not a simple matter. This really needed time to accumulate. In short, practice makes perfect. Otherwise, it would be just like how he could barely write an extremely rare character. It would definitely not look good, and he would not be able to draw it out in one stroke. When Han Fei opened his eyes, Guan Qingyan glanced at him. "Brother Han, have you made any progress?" Han Fei shook his head. "Don't panic. Haste makes waste. I estimate that it will take another month." Guan Qingyan nodded slightly. Of course it takes time. He had studied it for a long time and knew how difficult it was. Although it was Han Fei who proposed the concept of this refining furnace. However, it didn't mean that Han Fei could do it easily. Otherwise, with Han Fei's greedy character, he would have taken out the refining furnace and asked for resources. Han Fei rose. "Old Guan. One had to strike a balance between work and rest. Do you want some fruit?" Guan Qingyan shook his head. Han Fei shrugged helplessly. Scientists are so boring. So, Han Fei picked out a pineapple, a few peaches, a few loquats, and a bunch of mulberries from Forge the Universe. At the same time, he made a cup of sea bamboo drink for himself and began to eat and drink it. Just as he ate a peach and a loquat, he saw Mu Jia, and Beihua come in. Seeing that Han Fei was eating, Mu Jia, exclaimed, "Wow! Are you secretly eating delicious food?" Han Fei rolled his eyes. "Can't I eat my own food?" With that, Han Fei grabbed a peach and threw it to Beihua. The latter didn't hesitate to take it. After taking it, he took a bite and said it was not bad. As for Mu Jia, she had already sat opposite Han Fei, picked up an orange-yellow loquat, and took a bite. She didn't doubt Han Fei's taste in food at all. In this regard, Han Fei was a professional. Among the people Mu Jia, knew, Han Fei was the best eater. Besides, what he ate was delicious food. Mu Jia, stuffed her mouth and asked, "What is this?" Han Fei said casually, "It's just a low-level spiritual fruit." It tastes good, but it doesn't have any practical effect. Bei Hua smiled. Han Fei, how's your research going? Han Fei spat out the peach pit in his mouth and picked up a bunch of mulberries. It's not bad. I should be able to try it in a month. All of a sudden, Bei Hua and Guan Qingyan's eyes lit up. Even Mu Jia looked at Han Fei in surprise after eating the fruit. So fast. Bei Hua was a little surprised. Did Han Fei mean that many problems could be solved? Guan Qingyan was also stunned for a long time. Didn't you just say that more haste, less speed? You said that there would only be progress in a month. How come you can try it in a month? However, Guan Qingyan didn't know that for people like Han Fei, the concept of time was still stuck in the idea that a year was a long time. Han Fei didn't even realize that a hidden fisher could live for hundreds of years. Therefore, a month was already a long time in Han Fei's eyes. If he hadn't been so free, he wouldn't have spent a month on research. Bei Hua immediately said, "Okay, nobody will disturb you during this time. Jia, you'd better stay and study hard." Got it, got it. 20 days passed. Han Fei finally finished reading the ocean book. He didn't know how significant the ocean book was until this moment. It was the essence of an era. The thousands of arrays varied in difficulty, and Han Fei felt that it would take him at least 3 years to digest them all. To really master them all, it would probably take 5 years, or even longer. But it didn't stop Han Fei from finding as many as 100 arrays from the ocean book, which could support him to finish his research on refining furnaces. On the 27th day, Han Fei began to draw. Bam! The refining room exploded. Han Fei, Guan Qingyan, and Mu Jia sat in the messy room with their faces covered in dust, staring at each other. Mu Jia exclaimed, "Why did it explode?" Han Fei scratched his head and said, "Don't panic. Something must have gone wrong. It's not a big problem. An explosion naturally wouldn't cause any special commotion." Bei Hua had asked them not to be disturbed, so nobody was bothered. Half an hour passed. Bam! An hour passed. Bam! 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 Ah! In the Scattered Stars 4th unit, a bunch of people sat gloomily in the living room, sipping their drinks. "Boss Bei Hua, we can't go on like this. Should we ask them to stop for a while?" "That's right, Boss Bei Hua. How are we going to refine? Have they already started experiments? Are they in too much of a hurry?" "Forget it, I'd better go back to the team first." Bei Hua took a deep look at the innermost refining room and said unhurriedly, "Everybody, go back for now. I'll inform you if anything happens in a few days." Inside the room, Guan Qingyan said, "Brother Han, we don't understand your array at all." Han Fei said, "I have a decomposition diagram. They all correspond to each other." Mu Jia asked, "That's not right. Why is this spirit gathering array used in this place?" Han Fei said unhurriedly, "It has to be used here. It's used to extract the spiritual energy inside the weapon." Guan Qingyan asked, "Brother Han, what about this? Why does it need a defense array?" Han Fei said, "It's to prevent the furnace from being damaged after long-term use." Bei Hua craned his head in and listened for a while. He was quite pleased. This was the future of refining. He might as well stop bothering them and let them work on it. He could also visit his old friends. For more than 20 days in a row. How many times had the Scattered Stars 4th unit exploded? Thankfully, every part was protected by corresponding isolation. Otherwise, the other 6 units would have smashed the Scattered Stars 4th unit. On this day, in front of the 3 of them, there was a fruit platter each. After getting used to Mu Jia and Han Fei's argument, Guan Qingyan became more relaxed and joined in from time to time. At this moment, Guan Qingyan and Mu Jia looked at Han Fei solemnly. Guan Qingyan asked, "Brother Han, are you really going to do it?" Mu Jia asked, "What if this thing explodes?" Han Fei smiled. We've already blown it up once or twice. Mu Jia, took a breath. Then you do it. I put on a battle suit. In the next moment, Mu Jia, armed herself to the teeth. The helmet on her head was put on, and even her eyes were sealed. From now on, she only used her perception. Guan Qingyan also put on a battle suit, his face tense. And Han Fei grabbed a large number of semi-divine weapon materials and began to smelt them. This time, he was going to make a refining furnace. This was not as simple as making an ultra-quality spiritual weapon or a semi-divine weapon. This was a refining furnace with more than 300 processes and multiple parts. Pieces of parts were refined by Han Fei one by one. On average, one piece was made in 30 minutes. Guan Qingyan and Mu Jia's eyelids twitched at his refining speed. Of course, they were watching with their perception. This is fucking too fast, the two thought. For a full 6 hours, Han Fei didn't stop. And Mu Jia's and Guan Qingyan's hearts almost jumped out. Because a large independent refining furnace was being assembled for the final smelting. After a while, Mu Jia looked at this refining furnace in shock. It's done. Guan Qingyan immediately took a breath and couldn't wait to say, Brother Han, come on, try it. Before Guan Qingyan and the others said anything, Han Fei had already grabbed a few ultra-quality materials and started to fuse and quench them. After 100 minutes or so, the materials appeared and were poured into the refining furnace. Han Fei was ready to build a long knife. The refining furnace began to run, and the spiritual fire was boiling. Han Fei shouted, Spirit fusing and quenching are not a problem. In the furnace, spirit refinement was in progress, and Han Fei was watching every step closely and making judgments. 50 minutes was no problem. The fusion began. The preliminary fusion was no problem. The fusion was completed. The spiritual energy extraction was completed. The formation was completed, and there were no changes. When she heard that the array imprinting was completed, Mu Jia jumped up. Ah! It's done. Han Fei continued, the second micro-refining begins. Spiritual energy compression completed. Spiritual energy, suddenly, Han Fei's eyelids twitched. The last step, extracting spiritual energy into the finished product, was stuck. The semi-divine weapon began to become unstable. Han Fei suddenly felt his scalp go numb and shouted, defend, the next second. Rumble, the courtyard on the ground of the Scattered Stars 7th unit instantly turned into flying ash, and a pillar of fire rose into the sky. Chapter 972. In the pillar of fire, Han Fei's hair was standing on end. Mu Jia, 2,000 meters away from the Scattered Stars 7th unit, sat on the ground, her mind in a mess. She seemed to be thinking, who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? Guan Qingyan was lying not far from Mu Jia, his head in the grass. Just now, the two of them were thrown out by Han Fei in the pillar of fire. Fortunately, Han Fei reacted in time and prepared the coiled turtle array. Otherwise, these two people would have been seriously injured at this moment. For a time, a large number of people wearing masks emerged from the ground. A group of people stood in the open space, looking at the pillar of fire and looking at each other. Someone was stunned. What did the Scattered Stars 4th unit do? The Scattered Stars 2nd unit, the Alchemy Division, was very aware of the furnace explosion and immediately shouted, whose furnace exploded? Why is it so powerful? The Scattered Stars 6th unit, as a mysterious research division, was responsible for inventions and creations. At this moment, someone was furious. Fuck, my new research was destroyed in an instant. Who? Come out. The Scattered Stars 7th unit, as a hunting division, were all stunned. Where is the enemy? The Scattered Stars 5th unit, as well as the Supervision division, had already begun to look for people. Their first sight was on Mu Jia, and Guan Qingyan. All the members of the Scattered Stars 1st unit came out. Liang Tian said with a black face, a secret realm collapsed. Who did it? In the sky. A group of law enforcers appeared with a swish. Someone shouted, "What's going on?" Someone scanned with his perception. The one in the pit, come out. Han Fei fluttered out of the pillar of fire, covered in dust. He didn't even wear a mask on his face. The clothes on his upper body had long been blown up. At this moment, seeing a large group of people looking at him, Han Fei chuckled and said, "It's a misunderstanding. We were doing a major research and made a slight mistake." Han Fei. Someone was stunned and immediately recognized Han Fei. A girl blushed. That strong body, that black ash that couldn't hide his body lines, seemed quite attractive. Someone was speechless. You call this a slight mistake? The entire Scattered Stars 7th unit was blown up by you. You call this a slight mistake? Han Fei underestimated the power of the furnace explosion. Logically speaking, a semi-divine weapon crafting furnace was made of a large number of semi-divine weapon materials. With the same materials, it might be possible to refine dozens of semi-divine weapons. Therefore, the power of the furnace explosion was much more terrifying than the explosion of a semi-divine weapon. Because the crafting furnace was a single entity, if there was a problem in one part, it would cause the spiritual energy and energy to be unable to be released, resulting in a compression. Just like a tire, if it was too inflated, it would easily burst. However, this was much more dangerous than a flat tire. In the distance, Bei Hua, Wang Su, Li Feiyun, and other big shots were flying close. Didn't they say that they were doing experiments? Why did they destroy the Scattered Stars 7th unit? Seeing that Bei Hua had come, someone from the Scattered Stars 7 units asked angrily, "Old Bei, what do you think we should do?" Seeing this scene, Yu Su couldn't help but sigh. Han Fei, aren't you refining semi-divine weapons? This power didn't seem like it. It seems to be even more powerful than the explosion of a low-grade divine weapon. Bei Hua looked at Han Fei. Han Fei, what's wrong? Han Fei put on a new set of clothes and said, "Don't panic. It's not a big problem. Just now, when I was testing the finished product, there was a mistake in one link. I ignored a guiding array. But now it's no problem. Wait, I'll refine another one right away." Hearing that Han Fei was going to continue, immediately, someone shouted, "Wait. What are you going to refine? The Scattered Stars 7 units have already disappeared. Why are you still refining?" Someone stepped back. "Wait, let's make it clear first." Han Fei rolled his eyes. "What do you know? I am making a contribution to mankind. Do you know what I am studying? If this thing succeeds, there will be as many semi-divine weapons on the Scattered Stars Island as dogs." "What the hell is a dog?" "Ah. That's none of your business. Anyway, I can't stop now. I'm only one step away." Guan Qingyan stood up. "I can prove it." Although Mu Jia felt a little guilty, she also raised her hand. "I can also prove it." Li Yunfei frowned and said, "Han Fei, are you sure you are almost successful?" Han Fei nodded. "Just now, it was indeed an accident. I missed a step. If you don't believe me, I'll show you now." Immediately, a law enforcer wondered, "Is it very important?" Bei Hua looked at those law enforcers and nodded. "Very important. It will bring a revolution to the Scattered Stars Island." The law enforcers looked at each other and seemed to communicate. Finally, one of them said, "Han Fei, are you sure you won't make such a big noise again?" Han Fei patted his chest and said, "Of course not. I won't fall into the same trap twice." Immediately, the law enforcer communicated with Bei Hua and the others, and then said, "Since it is so important and will benefit mankind, you can refine it here. If anything goes wrong, it will be convenient for us to take action." The people of the other 6 units were dumbfounded at this moment. Is it really as exaggerated as they said? Is it really going to benefit mankind? Han Fei stretched out his hand and rolled out a large pile of semi-divine weapon materials from the hole, which was piled up like a hill. Okay, Senior Yusu. Have you prepared my 5-star refiner certificate? Yusu smiled. As long as I succeed, I will give it to you immediately. Han Fei chuckled. That's what you said. Wait for me for 12 hours. Suddenly, Han Fei's face tightened, and the materials floated in the air one by one and began to be smelted. Wow! He's refining so fast. Are all refiners refining like this? Being a refiner seems to be more profitable than being an alchemist. If he can refine ultra-quality spiritual weapons, wouldn't he be able to refine them in minutes? Yusu said leisurely, if this kid can concentrate on refining, his future achievements will be limitless. Bei Hu didn't speak. He thought to himself, don't say that to me. I can't even beat Han Fei now. What can I do? 12 hours later. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, a strange-looking object that looked like a giant bird's egg appeared in front of them. At this moment, it was covered by spiritual energy and burning. Han Fei took a breath, grabbed a few more ultra-quality materials, and said, okay, I'm going to start. As soon as he said that, the group of people retreated hundreds of meters away. Only the law enforcers and Guan Qingyan were still there. After all, the fruits of their labor were also in it. How could they give up until they saw this thing being made with their own eyes? After a while, Han Fei began to shout in a low voice. The refining in the furnace began. The first 50 seconds were fine. The fusion began. The initial fusion was fine. The fusion was completed. The spiritual energy extraction was completed. The array imprinting was completed. There was no change. The second micro-refining begins. Mu Jia, couldn't help but take 2 steps back. This was where the furnace exploded just now. Han Fei continued, the spiritual energy compression was completed. The excess spiritual energy was successfully guided. The spiritual energy was sealed and ready to be refined. The moment the furnace was ready to be refined, Guan Qingyan, Mu Jia, Bai Hu, Yusu, and Li Yunfei all held their breath. Success or failure depended on this. When the spiritual fire in the furnace gradually subsided and disappeared, everyone saw a long knife with a cold light quietly hanging in the furnace. Han Fei suddenly grinned. Success. Swish. Mu Jia, jumped up excitedly and hung behind Guan Qingyan. The latter didn't seem to notice it, and a smile finally appeared on his cold face. Success. With a swish, Li Yunfei grabbed the semi-divine long knife in his hand and took out a semi-divine weapon with the other hand. Clang, the air waves shook, but the semi-divine long knife was undamaged. Li Yunfei murmured, really, it's done. Yusu quickly grabbed the long knife, swallowed, and beamed with joy. It's indeed a semi-divine weapon, ha ha ha. Yes, it's absolutely right. Bei Hu laughed. Han Fei, thank you. With that, Bei Hu quickly stopped smiling and said, Han Fei, do you want to try the other weapons? Han Fei nodded. This crafting furnace was not as simple as refining a semi-divine long saber. The 5 major professions of human beings were hunters, soul warriors, armorists, spirit gatherers, and manipulators. They needed not only weapons but also armor. For different professions, weapons were divided into sticks, daggers, knives, swords, and shields. As for longbows, spears, halberds, whips, and the like, there were relatively few people who used them, so they couldn't be completed in one refining furnace. However, if one refining furnace was completed, would the other refining furnaces still be a problem? Immediately, Han Fei tried them one by one. After a while, a semi-divine shield was formed. Mu Jia shouted, me too, me too. Han Fei stretched his body and said, you do it. Mu Jia's refining speed wasn't that fast. However, this was not a problem. No one dared to make a sound now. They were witnessing a major event, which was much more important than the research of the scattered stars' 6 units. At this moment, the entire scattered stars 7 units were watching. After a while, a pair of divine daggers was formed. Mu Jia raised the daggers happily. It's done. The daggers are fine. There are still 2 left. Guan Qingyan, do you want to try them? Guan Qingyan nodded heavily. After another moment, a long sword and a long stick appeared one after another. Guan Qingyan took a heavy breath and finally put on a smile. All 5 weapons have been successfully crafted. There is no danger of furnace explosion. We succeeded. At this moment, Guan Qingyan grinned. He looked up at the sky, very happy, and a huge sense of accomplishment came to his face. Although he was not the leader of this operation, he still couldn't resist the joy of success. The law enforcers also smiled. Immediately, except for one who stayed in place, the others left one after another. They seemed to have gone to spread the news. Bei Hua laughed. From now on, the era dominated by ultra-quality spiritual weapons is over. Immediately, except for the scattered stars 7 units, people from the other 6 units walked out one after another. Congratulations. Han Fei, not bad. The furnace explosion this time was worth it. The scattered stars 4 units are amazing. Yu Su smiled and said, Han Fei, your 5-star refiner certificate will arrive soon. Li Yunfei let out a long sigh of relief. The price of semi-divine weapons must be lowered immediately. Please wait a moment. Let me gather the refiners to discuss the price of semi-divine weapons. With that said, Li Yunfei looked at the 3 of them and said, You 3, prepare to write a book. This book will be spread throughout the 1,000-star city. Chapter 973. The significance of the semi-divine weapon refining furnace was epoch-making, not that the semi-divine weapon itself was epoch-making. For 5-star refiners, if they had enough good materials, it was not difficult to refine a semi-divine weapon. The difficulty was how to refine a semi-divine weapon with the materials of an ultra-quality spiritual weapon. This was the key point. This was epoch-making. This meant that the materials that could be used to refine ultra-quality spiritual weapons could now be used to refine semi-divine weapons. What if this was not a great achievement? Then what should it be called? At this moment, the 3 of them, together with the semi-divine weapon refining furnace, had been moved to the refining hall of the central city. A large group of refiners who had learned the news had already surrounded this place. Li Yunfei said, Everyone, please wait a moment. We'll have a meeting when everyone is here. In the most luxurious refining room of the refining hall of the central city, several people were discussing the naming of this refining furnace. This thing was developed by Guan Qingyan and Mu Jia, under Han Fei's leadership. So, the 3 of them naturally had to come up with a name. This was also a rule of the refining hall. Yu Su smiled and said, Don't underestimate the matter of naming. This is a great event that will go down in history. This means that from today on, all the people who use this kind of refining furnace will mention its name every time they mention it. And this name was given by the 3 of you together. Li Yunfei smiled and said, Han Fei, what do you think? Han Fei bared his teeth and said, Is it very important? Bei Hua smiled and said, It can make you very famous. The entire 1,000-star city may remember your name. Han Fei glanced at Guan Qingyan and Mu Jia. Although Guan Qingyan looked cold every day, he was actually the one who had been studying it the longest. Of course, his contribution was definitely not as great as Han Fei's. As for Mu Jia, although she was joking all day long, the last idea of refining a semi-divine weapon was put forward by her. In this research, she also put forward a lot of suggestions. Before Han Fei spoke, Mu Jia said, Let's call it the 3 Heavenly Talents Refining Furnace to represent the 3 of us refining geniuses. Everyone, Han Fei felt that his name was bad enough. He didn't expect that there would be someone even worse than him. Han Fei curled his lips. Then we might as well call it Han Guanmu Refining Furnace. Everyone, Mu Jia, pouted. Why am I the last? Everyone rolled their eyes. Are you at the front? After a long silence, Guan Qingyan said, let's give it a name. Han Fei gritted his teeth. How should we name ourselves? Li Feiyan smiled and said, isn't it simple? Why does the surname come first? How about the Nanyanmu stove? Everyone, Han Fei had no choice. Forget it, old Guan. It's up to you. Mu Jia, actually, what do you mean by actually? You eat peaches. Han Fei reached out and stuffed a peach into Mu Jia's mouth. It doesn't matter what the name is. Anyway, people will know the three people behind the name. Guan Qingyan said, listen to Senior Li, call it Faiyanmu stove. Li Yunfei laughed, see. My suggestions are always good. Yu Su and Bei Hu snorted. Just show off. About half an hour later, everyone who was supposed to be there had arrived. At this moment, the refining room was full of people, and everyone's eyes were fixed on the Faiyanmu stove. When they got the news, to be honest, everyone was dumbfounded. They thought that the array mark proposed by Mu Jia was already advanced enough. Although it was a bit troublesome, it was enough to refine semi-divine weapons. However, suddenly, someone told them that they didn't have to do anything but throw the materials into a stove, add spiritual energy, and the semi-divine weapon would automatically appear. Who could resist that? How could there be such a good thing in the world? At this moment, someone asked, Master Yunfei, is this the refining furnace that can refine semi-divine weapons? Li Yunfei said, it just got a new name, Faiyanmu stove. This stove was developed by Han Fei, Guan Qingyan, and Mu Jia as assistants. Then Li Yunfei smiled and said, I don't want to say anything. Any one of you can come up. You, the tallest one. Come up and operate it yourself. Sun Jia was refreshed. It's my first time operating such a good thing. More importantly, he was only a 3-star refiner. He immediately said nervously, Senior Li, I'm a 3-star refiner. Can I do it? Li Yunfei smiled and said, I just want to choose a 3-star refiner to operate it. If even you can operate it successfully, then this Faiyanmu stove will definitely have no problem and we can start mass production. Li Yunfei was not joking. The materials of semi-divine weapons were very rare, and it was impossible to refine semi-divine weapons with them. However, if he couldn't refine the Faiyanmu stove with these semi-divine materials, he could only throw away the materials that the Scattered Stars Island had accumulated over the years. Sun Jia went on stage to practice. In the crowd, there was another 3-star refiner staring at Han Fei. Han Fei had already noticed him. Who is this uncle? He looks a bit familiar. Han Fei suddenly remembered that when he went to the refining hall for the first time, he paid money to watch others refine weapons. It seemed to be this person. At that time, the other party wanted to teach him, and that person was also shocked at this moment. What kind of monster is this? At the beginning, he wanted to give him some advice. However, seeing that Han Fei was arrogant and said that refining was easy, he immediately lost interest. But now, Han Fei was already a 5-star refiner, and he was still a 3-star refiner. Seeing Han Fei looking over, he hurriedly lowered his head, thinking, don't recognize me. On the field. Sun Jia took a breath and Yu Su said with a smile, concentrate and refine according to the normal method of refining ultra-quality spiritual weapons. After the spirit refinement, just put all the materials in through this hole. Sun Jia nodded solemnly. Spirit fusion, meticulous, and even a little high concentration. After all, there were so many pairs of eyes watching. One mistake, and he had lost face. He didn't even know where to put it. Fortunately, everything went smoothly, although it took a little longer. However, there was no problem with Sun Jia's operation. After a while, he poured the materials into the mold. Immediately, the Faiyanmu stove automatically began to operate, and spiritual energy gushed out. The spiritual fire burst out, and the originally dark lines on the stove, when the spiritual fire rose, seemed to be drawing a beautiful picture. About 500 minutes later, when the spiritual fire was extinguished, in the stove, a long sword floated in the air, emitting a cold light. Its quality was by no means comparable to that of ordinary ultra-quality spiritual weapons. Wow! It's done. So simple. Isn't this too simple? Fuck. With this stove, the pattern of human beings will change, ultra-quality spiritual weapons may become a thing of the past. If everyone is equipped with semi-divine weapons, the strength of human beings will take a big leap forward. Someone shook his head. Don't be too optimistic. First of all, how many stoves can this Fayenmu stove be refined? This is a problem. With such a large stove, it must consume a lot of resources. And human beings have a large population. Even if they refine day and night, how can they let everyone hold a semi-divine weapon? I'm afraid it will be a very long-term thing, not something that can be done in a year or two. Li Yunfei said, I know your concerns. This time, I summoned you here just to demonstrate to you how to operate the Fayenmu stove. Later, I will go to report to the general in person. Use the top materials of the Scattered Stars Island to make the Fayenmu stove as soon as possible. In addition, 3 days later, announce this to the whole city to give everyone a shot in the arm. After the demonstration of the Fayenmu stove, except for Han Fei and the other two who were praised, the crowd dispersed. Yu Su handed the 5-star refiner certificate to Han Fei and said to Guan Qinyan and Mu Jia, you two can also get a 5-star refiner certificate, but not now, after you forge all the Fayenmu stoves. Guan Qinyan nodded. Of course. Mu Jia had no objection. She found that Han Fei was too perverted. Han Fei smiled and said, Senior Yu Su, well, I only have a 5-star refiner certificate. Yu Su smiled and said, the general said you can go to see him yourself. Han Fei, to be honest, Han Fei didn't want to meet Shueishenqi. Every time he saw him, he would put on a straight face and act like a big shot. Then Yu Su added, oh, by the way, the general said that after you forge all the existing materials into the Fayenmu stove, you can go to see him and forge all kinds of weapons. Bei Hua added, you have to write a book. It can't be delayed. Han Fei rolled his eyes. I'm a hero. I've contributed to mankind. How come I've become a robot on the production line now? However, on second thought, as long as I don't die, the entire 1,000-star city will belong to me. I'm also helping myself. Thinking of this, Han Fei immediately felt much more comfortable. 8 years later, many people should be able to get semi-divine weapons, right? 3 days later. Han Fei and the others were building the Fayenmu stove in full swing. Mu Jia, even directly engraved the words, Fayenmu stove, on the stove, as if she were afraid that others wouldn't know. And on this day. It was also the day when the Fayenmu stove was announced to the entire Scattered Stars Island. On this day, the whole island was in an uproar. Many people, after appreciating the Fayenmu stove, directly described it as amazing. And Han Fei was given a new name, Father of Semi-Divine Weapons. Chapter 974. Central City. The General's Mansion. Han Fei was looking at a huge map hanging in Shueishenqi's room and couldn't help but exclaim, this sea map even covers the location of the 10,000 Demon Valley. What? Are you interested in the 10,000 Demon Valley? Shueishenqi finished dealing with the official business at hand and looked up at Han Fei. Han Fei came back to his senses. Ah. Nothing. I'm just a little curious about the territory of the sea demons. Shueishenqi didn't know whether he was listening or not, so he changed the topic abruptly and looked at Han Fei leisurely. The Fayenmu furnace was made in time. This step is quite good, quite similar to the refining divine platform of the sea monsters. Han Fei was slightly shocked and a surprised look appeared on his face. Oh. Really? I heard Senior Bei Hua mention it. However, I think this should be the only way to go on the right path of refining. Really? Without waiting for Han Fei to answer, Shueishenqi said, your strength should be almost used up, right? Han Fei replied, almost. Shueishenqi nodded slightly. That's good. After the Scattered Stars 4th unit's business is over, go to the sea for a year. After that, you can almost go. Han Fei said lightly, after a few years, I'll come back. Shueishenqi nodded. If you can come back alive and if you still want to become a king. Han Fei shrugged his shoulders. Okay. However, I have calculated the resources on the Scattered Stars Island. If all of them are used to make the Feiyanmu furnace, we can make about 48 of them. I think there should be more, right? Shueishenqi said lightly, of course. As for the rest, I will arrange it myself. This time, you will get an 8-star rank. 1 year later, I hope you can get a 9-star rank. Other rewards are meaningless to you. Leave them to others. Okay, go. It was not a big deal that he didn't get any points. Anyway, Han Fei didn't lack those points now. If there was no accident, the value of level 2 soul crystals was far less than before. The only useful thing was the life fruit. However, in the battle of the ancient battlefield, he had accumulated as many as 100 life fruits. Life fruits were no longer attractive to him. As for cultivation methods, he couldn't use them now. He could use this 1 year to temper himself. To prepare for the trip to the 1,000-star city. He didn't know what would happen if he went there. After all, that was the enemy's territory. Inside the club. A party of 4. So, Shueishenqi has a purpose. Since he doesn't want to create more Fengyanmu furnaces, I can deduce that the primordial battlefield has just opened and he still needs this place to train others. Luo Xiaobai shook her head. It's not that simple. Everyone wanted a semi-divine weapon. However, the Scattered Stars Island had a large population, not to mention the 1,000-star city. Just 48 was definitely not enough. Even if a refiner worked day and night, could he refine 20 semi-divine weapons in a day? Even if they could refine 1,000 semi-divine weapons a day, it would take several years to meet the demand of the Scattered Stars Island, which would create a sense of fierce competition. At that time, there might be conditions to obtain a semi-divine weapon. Lu Renquang said, I heard that 480 pieces can be refined in a day. Zhang Xuanyu said, I heard about it too. Luo Xiaobai said, the Scattered Stars Island needs this mechanism. In the beginning, semi-divine weapons certainly can't be popularized. Otherwise, what motivation do the people on the island have? The reason why the marshal prolonged the time should be to prepare for the war that Han Fei said 8 years later. And in the next 8 years, we should keep everyone in a state of tension. This is a matter of vision and pattern. Hearing Luo Xiaobai's words, Han Fei immediately understood. When semi-divine weapons were basically popularized, it should be the time when everyone on the Scattered Stars Island was most confident and their combat power would be at its peak. He had to admit that this was a good plan. If it were him, he would definitely want to make all the semi-divine weapons at once. It would be better if each person could have one. Anyway, it's not my own money. Han Fei thought for a moment. How to deal with the sea demons? Shueishenqi's thinking was very clear, which made Han Fei feel less pressure. Han Fei shook his head and said, let's not talk about this. In a few days, my refining book will be finished. At that time, I'll give it to the refining hall and we'll go to sea. Zhang Xuanyu immediately said excitedly, okay. I can't wait. It's time for our strength to improve by leaps and bounds. It's time to go out and fight. Han Fei sighed. In the past half a year, he had been getting used to the power he had gained. Because the power obtained by the source water was too sudden. It was like a catalyst, suddenly catalyzing him to the peak that he could reach now. As a result, his cultivation was useless and he couldn't make any progress. And Zhang Xuanyu and the other two had indeed made rapid progress. They had fought too many times on the ancient battlefield, experienced the underground city, the boneyard, and obtained opportunities. After coming out, Old Han also gave them a wave of opportunities. They didn't lack resources, so it would be strange if they didn't make progress. It was also because of Han Fei's half a year of getting used to that their team stood at the same level for the first time. They were all advanced hidden fishers. And Luo Xiaobai even faintly touched the peak. Of course, in terms of combat power, the three of them should still be inferior to him. However, if he were to take on three of them at once, and he didn't use the void lines, and all four of them used their secret techniques, he reckoned that it would still take a while. 5 days later. On this day, on the roof of the refining hall in the west of the Scattered Stars Island. Huh! A loud roar spread in all directions. Many passers-by and the people from the logistics division looked up and thought, let's see which idiot is shouting on the rooftop. When they looked up, they were surprised to find that it was Han Fei. Under the refining hall, someone shouted at the roof, Master Han Fei, why are you up there? Han Fei laughed and said, everyone, don't miss this opportunity. Today, I, Han Fei, appeal to everyone to consider learning refining. Although everyone already knows that the Fei Yanmu furnace can forge semi-divine weapons. But, everyone, in this world, there is nothing that can be obtained without hard work. The number of semi-divine weapons is limited, but I can tell you that I have improved the refining technique. Perhaps, in the near future, you can also refine your own weapons. At least, it is completely possible to refine ultra-quality spiritual weapons. Now, I have put my works and improved refining techniques in the refining hall for everyone to learn for free. Everyone can take them, everyone can learn them, completely free. Okay, I'm done. Han Fei finished speaking in one breath and flew south on the wind god boat. He had made an appointment with Luo Xiaobai and the others to gather on the south coast. To the west of the Scattered Stars Island was the direction to the 10,000 Demon Valley. To the north was the direction to the Sea of Pearls. The border between the east and the north also included part of the Sea of Pearls, but not all of it. Now, it was mainly the location of the ancient battlefield. And to the south of the Scattered Stars Island, Han Fei hadn't set foot on it yet. As for why Han Fei ran to the roof of the refining hall to shout, that was because of Bei Hua and Yu Su. According to Yu Su, with the Fei Yanmu furnace, the price of weapons had dropped a lot. Now that people had hope, fewer and fewer people came to learn refining. And any discipline needed talents to promote it. Therefore, they invited Han Fei to swindle them. However, Yu Su and the others didn't expect that Han Fei would swindle them like this. They didn't know whether it would work or not. Little did they know that after Han Fei left, many people rushed to the refining hall. This scene caught the refining hall off guard. In the distance, Bei Hua and the others were very satisfied. However, the next moment, they couldn't laugh anymore. Someone in the crowd said, free? Is there such a good thing? It would be a waste not to take it. Let's take it first. Later, we can take it home and spread it. Someone laughed and said, yes, 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 I'll pass it on to my son. When he goes to the level 3 fishery, maybe I can refine 2 ultra-quality spiritual weapons for him if he can't get a semi-divine weapon. Someone sneered. Do you think you can refine it just because you say so? It's very expensive to train a refiner. Someone said disdainfully, practice with ordinary materials first. Ordinary materials are not valuable. Someone agreed. Although you can't refine them even if you learn them, I heard that the spirit fusing technique is heaven level. At least you can learn 3 refining techniques. Bei Hua, Yu Su, Li Yunfei, 3 days after Han Fei and the others left the Scattered Stars Island. In the sky, the cloud whale flew over with a roar, carrying a lot of people on its back. The competition of the 36 towns should be held once every 5 years. It had only been a little more than 2 years since the last time. 3 years was almost enough. There shouldn't be a large number of people coming at this time. On the back of the cloud whale, a 4-star hanging fisher said, let me tell you, you can be said to be the luckiest group of people in the history of the Scattered Stars Island. Do you know? Just half a year ago, humans and sea demons launched a shocking battle of tens of thousands of hidden fishers. We humans killed more than 5,000 sea demons. Senior, what is a sea demon? What is a sea demon? The man said discontentedly, don't interrupt, listen to me slowly. The 4-star hanging fisher talked for a long time, telling these teenagers about the past of the Scattered Stars Island and the sea demons. The story that seemed like a fantasy caused these youths to be excited, and their hot blood surged. The hanging fisher said, because of this war, we humans won a chance to breathe. We don't need to be on tenterhooks to prevent the sea demons from attacking us all the time. Besides, Marshal Shui delegated for the first time the sea area within 5,000 kilometers of the Scattered Stars Island is completely open to you. A teenager said, Senior, why is it only 5,000 kilometers? The level 3 fishery is hundreds of thousands of kilometers long. Isn't this 5,000 kilometers too small? The hanging fisher was so angry that his face tightened. What do you know? Do you know how big the previous limit was? 200 kilometers. You're only 5,000 kilometers, and you don't like it? Do you know what this means? The outer sea area is more than 500 kilometers, and any creature can kill you. Where do you think this is? This is the unknown place. Suddenly, a teenager asked, Senior, do you know Han Fei? The hanging fisher was taken aback and couldn't help but look up at the starry sky. This is a legendary figure. Someone asked, who is Han Fei? The hanging fisher smiled and said, he is a madman who broke into the Dark Hunter Legion twice. He is a hanging fisher who wandered alone in the outer sea for a year and survived. He is a strong master who beheaded countless people in the top battlefields of the ancient battlefield. He is a peerless heavenly talent. In more than 60 years, he is the only one who has obtained the legendary Wind God Pearl. He is the only magical refining genius in the entire history of the Thousand-Star City who created a semi-divine weapon with ultra-quality materials. The more the hanging fisher spoke, the more excited he became. In the end, he was so excited that he couldn't control himself. He calmed down a little before continuing, there are too many rumors about Han Fei. When you find the organization, just ask around, and someone will tell you. Okay, that's enough. Next, I'm going to tell you about your star titles, waist tags, and position assignments. In the crowd. He Xiaoyu let out a long sigh. Sure enough, he has risen to prominence. Another couple sighed and looked at each other. It was the same river, the same place, but different people. The Tactical Command Center, the Trans-Island Patrol Team, the Fishers Union, the Dark Hunter Legion, the Logistics Readiness Bureau, the Guard Group, the Law Enforcement Group, the Pioneer Group, the Refining Hall, the Alchemy Union, and many others were welcoming the newcomers. Where is Yang Fei? Where is Yang Fei? Is Su Qin here? He Xiaoyu, who is He Xiaoyu? Come here quickly. Who is Wang Baiyu? Come here, let me have a look at my new teammates. Chu Jinan, Ling Yuan, where are you? Come here quickly. Don't keep me waiting. The Pioneer Group is recruiting. Those with 2 stars can give up their sideline and follow us. You guys won't miss out on eating and drinking. Does anyone want to join the Dark Hunter Legion? If you are my brother, join the Dark Hunter Legion. Come here, the Fishers Union is recruiting. Sign up first. It won't affect your work. We are recruiting refining apprentices. They are purely sideline and don't need experience. They will teach you step by step and won't affect your main profession. 100 high-quality pearls per month. A moment later. A girl who looked like a girl frowned and looked at the 2 people in front of her. Why are you only advanced dangling fishers? How can you get a 3-star rank? Ling Yuan frowned and said, why? Are you doubting our strength? The girl sneered. I don't know if you got in through the back door. Do you know where you are going? Chu Jinan asked in a daze, where? The girl straightened her posture and said, cough, cough, listen up. I am Wu Xiaoxiao, the captain of the 37th Advanced Scout Squad of the 8th Battalion under the 3rd column of the Skeleton Shore. I received a message from my superiors that 2 3-star members will come today. I didn't expect that they would be advanced dangling fishers. Chu Jinan smiled and said, you may not be able to defeat us, Duong. Duong, Wu Xiaoxiao was about to teach the arrogant boy a lesson when she looked at the crowd in surprise. Why is the door-carrying marshal here? Hasn't he become a law enforcer? Why is he here to pick us up? Wang Dashui, who was carrying a big gate, attracted a lot of attention. He was looking around. Junior brother, junior sister. Which one is Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan? Wu Xiaoxiao. Chapter 975. It had been a full year and a half since the war on the ancient battlefield. The Scattered Stars Island slightly relaxed the entry standards for the major academies of the 36 towns and the 7 academies of the Thousand Star City. At the same time, they also opened the entry qualifications for some peak-level dangling fishers in the Level 3 fishery. Although the standards were only relaxed a little bit. The result of this little bit of standards was that hundreds of thousands of people suddenly poured into the Scattered Stars Island. After all, the population under the rule of the Thousand Star City was too large. Just like in the college entrance examination, a difference of 1 point could defeat thousands of troops. Now, this was the situation. Because of the addition of these people, the people who were originally stationed on the Scattered Stars Island could go a little deeper into the waters around the Scattered Stars Island to hunt. This year was destined to be the busiest year for the promotion of talents on the Scattered Stars Island. Because there was no invasion of sea demons, the strength of human beings grew very fast. At least, there were especially many people who broke through from peak-level dangling fishers to hanging fishers. Of course, this was only the offshore sea, which was relatively safe. Everyone only needed to face the dangers from the sea itself, without the invasion of sea demons. However, there were still many sea demons outside the sea 200,000 kilometers away. Although the 10,000 Demon Valley was hit hard once, causing the battle line to shrink, with the danger and vastness of the sea, human beings still couldn't set foot further into the deep sea. In this year, there would always be some people quietly rising. Some people's stories were also spread by word of mouth. In fact, on the sea, any battle could actually become a story. For example, someone discovered a small mystic realm today. As long as the explorer survived, he would have one more topic in the carnival shop. Another example was that someone found an exotic creature somewhere. They would exaggerate the process of the capture, which could also become a topic of conversation. Anyway, the carnival shop was a place for drinking and bragging. There were simply too many pieces of news that were left there every day. It could even be said to be innumerable. In addition to these topics, of course, there were often some strange situations. For example, a team went to sea and never came back. For example, a certain human was found to be problematic and was caught by the Scattered Stars prison. For example, someone fought with sea demons in the outer sea, and among them, there was a story like this. It was said that in the outer sea, several mysterious people appeared. They came and went unpredictably. In just 1 year, they had destroyed no less than 100 sea demon nests. Some people said that it was the law enforcers. However, they couldn't let the sirens know that a large number of law enforcers were hunting them, so they made up a few mysterious characters. Some people said that they were from the Empyrean waterfall who had been grounded and were now out to cause trouble to the sea demons. Some people said that he was saved by someone during his exploration, and that the person was Han Fei. The pair of phantom glass wings was very beautiful. In any case, there were all kinds of them. Should he take it seriously? That was the matter of the storyteller. On this day, the sky was clear and boundless, and the clouds were high and far away. About 600,000 kilometers away from the Scattered Stars Island, 4 people were crouching in a sand pit in a deep valley with a sand waterfall. Lu Renquang said, "Fei Fei, it's been 3 days. Why haven't the sea demons come out yet?" Luo Xiaobai nodded. "Don't worry. This treasure trove shouldn't be very large. Maybe something inside has attracted them." Zhang Xuanyu was playing with the sand in boredom. "Why don't we just go in and kill them?" At this moment, Han Fei was chewing dried fish in his mouth and said lazily, "Don't panic. This time, the other party is led by a sea spirit. Besides, the other party has a large number of people. Let's kill some of them first. After another 2 hours, it will be a full 3 days. If they don't come out, we'll go in again. Not long after Han Fei and the others finished talking, in the valley, a sea spirit appeared in a seemingly ordinary stone. This person glanced around and didn't notice anything wrong. Thus, he calmly waited for the people behind him to come out. Han Fei grinned. What did I say? Let's do it. Swish, 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 the 4 of them attacked at the same time, regardless of whether the people behind would come out or not. Because it was meaningless for them. As long as the sea spirit was subdued, the rest were just minions. The sea spirit, who had just relaxed, was instantly worried. In that instant, he didn't turn around. Instead, he directly ignited his blood and unleashed the sea god's descent, releasing his companion spirit. However, a large number of vines rolled up from the ground, and a stinging light instantly appeared behind him, leaving him no time to dodge. At this time, the space here had been distorted. Humph! How dare a hidden fisher come here to die? The sea spirit completely ignored Zhang Xuanyu's spear and directly used a flicker-type combat skill similar to the Flying Flower Demon Flash. However, the space was distorted, and his shoulder was still pierced by the spear. How is this possible? Huh! As soon as the sea spirit flashed out, he saw a pair of phantom wings appear in the place he wanted to flash to faster than him. The bright fist mark illuminated the sea shrouded in darkness. Blood burning. The sea spirit tried to resist with all his strength. But he still ignored the power of this punch. The power of the hidden fissure was actually 2 waves. Bam! This person was directly blasted into a big dark hole. This sea spirit didn't even have a chance to activate Sea God Descends before he was sucked in by the big hole. A cold knife light passed through the big dark hole, stretched out from inside, and penetrated his semi-divine battle suit. Parasite. Then, the sea spirit began to sprout in his body. A terrifying vitality broke out from his body, and seaweed grew wildly in his wounds, mouth, and nose. Third sky of the sea shaking realm. Bam! 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 The space 10 meters around the sea spirit was shaking. Every vibration contained a terrifying power. 3 times in a row, the sea spirit's internal organs were shattered and his bones were broken. Han Fei didn't even need to do anything. The 4 of them cooperated and killed a sea spirit-level powerhouse. From the moment this sea spirit was hit by Zhang Xuanyu's spear, his body was no longer under his control. He wanted to use the power of law, but his power was sound waves. Under a series of bombardments, he had no chance to use it at all. Besides, his associated spirit didn't listen to his call at all, as if it was controlled by someone else. How could he win? He was thinking that he could still be reborn and had the immortal seal. However, at the moment when his heart was pierced, a terrifying soul explosion fell on him. At that moment, the sea spirit's soul was in chaos, and he couldn't use the immortal seal at all, so he died directly. And as soon as he died, the big jellyfish pinned by Han Fei with the void lines disintegrated and died together with its master. The whole battle process didn't take more than 2 minutes. A sea spirit powerhouse was easily killed by Han Fei and the others. Swish! When the second sea demon came out of the secret realm, he happened to see this scene, and Han Fei waved at him. Surprised? After killing more than 30 half-mermaids in a row, Han Fei and the others were sure that the remaining 20 or so should have died in the secret realm. And this time, the harvest was quite abundant, with 3 sea-swallowing seashells full of resources, more than 100,000 caddies of spiritual spring, a mid-quality divine weapon, a bottle of pills, nearly 100 spiritual fruits, and dozens of combat skills. However, Han Fei and the others didn't take it seriously. For humans, the fastest way to grow was to obtain resources from the ocean. And they had done this dozens of times and had long been used to it. 3 hours later, the 4 of them came out of the secret realm. Most of the secret realm was destroyed, but it could be vaguely seen that there was a prehistoric sea demon here, so they didn't get any extra gains. Luo Xiaobai said lightly, now, as long as we don't go to the 10,000 Demon Valley, many things here are actually of little use to us. Unless we find a large secret realm. However, that's extremely rare. Should we consider going back to the Scattered Stars Island? Han Fei nodded slightly, and then shook his head. Xiaobai, do you feel something wrong? Luo Xiaobai glanced at Han Fei and reorganized her thoughts. Yes, a little bit. If I were that sea spirit, I would find a way to bring that prehistoric creature back to the 10,000 Demon Valley. This is more meaningful than killing him. Han Fei nodded. Yes, but now the ancient sea demon inside is dead. We don't know why they did this. Zhang Xuanyu said, will there be any information in the resources we just seized? Luo Xiaobai nodded. Wait, let me check again. Lu Renquang said, I think it's very simple. If it were us, if we met a living ancient person, I'm afraid we would also become an enemy. After a while, Luo Xiaobai shook her head slightly. No, they're just pure resources. Han Fei smiled and said, forget it, let's go back to the island. No matter what the sea demons do, they shouldn't be able to touch the Scattered Stars Island in a short time. And we should go to the 1,000-star city. Zhang Xuanyu joked, Xiaobai, you're going home. Are you excited? Luo Xiaobai said lightly, no. Chapter 976. 2 days after the four of them left, a crimson figure appeared outside this sand waterfall secret realm. If Han Fei were here, he would definitely recognize this person. Isn't this Qixue Huan? Back then, he was cheated by me, however, Qixue Huan's face was a little ugly at this moment. He said coldly, the same technique, but there are spiritual plants. It's Han Fei and the other three. A half-mermaid in the sea demon realm said respectfully, my lord, they are too mobile. Every time they attack, they quickly end the battle, leaving no one alive. We can't go on like this. Qixue Huan didn't care about this, but how did Han Fei and the others know about this mission? Could it be that it was a coincidence that they met again? Or Han Fei and the others have some special ability to track the whereabouts of sea demons? Qixue Huan's eyes turned cold. Chase them. Huh? My lord, Han Fei and the others are elusive. How can we chase them? Qixue Huan said coldly, doesn't he like to hunt our people? In this case, I'll be the bait myself. 5 days later. Han Fei and the others were not in a hurry to return to the Scattered Stars Island. Even if the wind god boat flew at full speed, it would take more than 10 days. Besides, they were not in a hurry now. Wandering on the sea, fishing, and eating hot pot were more enjoyable than traveling. The point was that they had raised their contractual spiritual beasts in the sea. For example, now, all of Han Fei's contractual spiritual beasts had reached level 49. And Little Black and Little White had reached level 53. This was the result of countless battles over the past year. Han Fei didn't deliberately use spirit awakening fluid to catalyze them. Obviously, contractual spiritual beasts also had their own cultivation. Combat experience, comprehension, and devouring other creatures could all play a role in improving their strength. It didn't mean that they had to eat some kind of elixir, Han Fei thought to himself, just let them work hard on their own. But when they were at the last step, he could throw tens of thousands of kilograms of spirit awakening fluid to help them make a breakthrough. During this period, Han Fei entered the Soul Sea once, when he was breaking through to become a peak-level hidden fisher. However, after various attempts and eating a lot of primitive spiritual beasts, he was still forcibly driven out by the terrifying power. Similarly, perhaps because they didn't manage to come in before, Little Black and Little White only leveled up twice in the Soul Sea, and then there was no more. And Han Fei had tried Little Black and Little White's fusion skill. If the fusion was the fusion of Little Black, Little White, and himself, then, fusion meant that he could combine with Little Black and Little White, turning him into a kind of fish. The greatest advantage of this talent skill was that it could turn into a fish. Besides, Han Fei could borrow Little White's treasure hunting ability, but in fact, it was superfluous. Little White could find it by itself. However, there was also a problem with this fusion skill. That was, Little Black, Little White, and himself. The three of them combined into one, which made the advantage of Little Black and Little White's immortality disappear. Once they encountered an uncontrollable danger, once they died, Little Black and Little White might really die. Of course, after the fusion, Han Fei was very powerful, so he wouldn't die so easily. But he had to be careful, so Han Fei didn't like this skill very much. If he had to turn into a fish, Han Fei felt that it was more reliable to deduce the 3 transformation wondrous book. However, now that he was going to the 1,000-star city, there was no need for this. Lu Renkuang muttered, "The growth of my spiritual beasts and contractual spiritual beasts is so troublesome. My spiritual clam is only level 46. When can it break through level 50? Zhang Xuanyu rolled his eyes and said, "Just be content. Just look at the cultivation time of those sea demons. It takes time for them to grow. Anyway, I'm not in a hurry." Luo Xiaobai said, "This can't be rushed. Whether it's spiritual beasts or contractual spiritual beasts, they all need a process to grow. It's not that they grow too slowly, but that we grow too fast." Lu Renkuang said, "Then should we become law enforcers?" Han Fei asked in surprise, "Can you?" Lu Renkuang sighed. "Not yet. I'm a little confused about my path." Han Fei rolled his eyes. "What are you confused about?" "Your path is to eat." Zhang Xuanyu nodded quickly. "Yes, just eat. I feel that this path will definitely be carried forward by you." Lu Renkuang was amused. "I'm still thinking if I should take the path of infinite defense. Eating is just my hobby." Luo Xiaobai nodded. "Your hobby is what you want." Lu Renkuang, Zhang Xuanyu smacked his lips and said, "Anyway, my path has long been set. I can become a law enforcer at any time." Luo Xiaobai nodded. "Me too." Han Fei nodded. "Me too." Lu Renkuang was a little confused. "Do you really think I can become a law enforcer?" The three of them nodded. Han Fei patted Lu Renkuang's shoulder and said, "Have you forgotten? You're a man who single-handedly ate 17 people." Lu Renkuang took a breath. "Wow! That seems to be true." Lu Renkuang immediately said, "Then let's go. Let's go back to the Empyrean waterfall. There's still 300,000 kilometers to go. Let's go back." When they decided to go back, Little White suddenly jumped out of the water and swam to Han Fei. "Dad! There are sea demon powerhouses, more than 3,000 kilometers away." Han Fei frowned. "Daughter, are there many of them?" Little White blinked a few times. "Yes. A large area." Han Fei's eyes lit up. "Let's go back. There's a job coming." Zhang Xuanyu was overjoyed. "Sea spirit level?" Han Fei nodded. "Yes, it should be sea spirit level. But this time, it may be a little stronger." Zhang Xuanyu said, "It's good that it's stronger. The junior sea spirits are no longer enough for us to fight." Han Fei grinned. "That's what I mean too. Now, if we kill one more, we will have less trouble in the future. God knows when we will come back from the 1,000-star city." Lu Renkuang nodded. "Then let's do the last one." Luo Xiaobai nodded. "Okay, let's go back after this." 1 hour later. Han Fei said, "I sensed that there are about 50 people 300 kilometers away. Huh, there are more than 10 hidden fissures. It seems that the other party's action is very important." Luo Xiaobai frowned. "Why are there so many hidden fissures in the 300,000 kilometers of the Scattered Stars Island? You know, there are often human law enforcers wandering 200,000 kilometers away." Zhang Xuanyu licked his lips and said, "Maybe they have found some large relics here." Han Fei nodded. It doesn't matter. No matter what their purpose is, a sea spirit and 10 hidden fishers can't cause any trouble. But this time, should we still follow them? Or directly kill them? Luo Xiaobai said, follow them. If there is a secret realm, we can take it together. Luo Renquang nodded. Although we have accumulated a lot of resources this year, compared with the big families in the Thousand-Star City, we are still far behind. However, compared with the big families in the Thousand-Star City, they're far inferior. I'd better take the opportunity to get more. Han Fei nodded. Okay. Then follow them. After following them for half a day, Han Fei said in surprise, I wonder what they are looking for. If they know where the secret realm is, shouldn't they have found it long ago? Luo Xiaobai and the others didn't have such a far perception, so they didn't know the situation. However, Han Fei knew it. With a sea spirit leading the way, they still hadn't found the secret realm? Something was not quite right. And Han Fei's perception and attention were all on the team that was searching. However, he did not notice that in the sea, there was a red mass of seaweed, approaching in their direction. At this moment, it was less than 100 kilometers away from where Han Fei was. Suddenly, Han Fei frowned slightly. Xiaobai, stop following them. Let's directly kill them. I have a feeling that something is wrong. Luo Xiaobai glanced at Han Fei in surprise. Should we just retreat? Anyway, it's just a wave of sea demons. Han Fei said, in any case, let's keep our contractual spiritual beasts first. Swish. Swish. Rays of light were absorbed into their bodies. They were all experienced people. Once their intuition appeared, they had to be cautious. Han Fei was about to say something, but suddenly, a red light pounced on them in an instant. Han Fei roared, retreat. Luo Xiaobai and the others retreated quickly, their faces changing. Not good, we've been tricked. Han Fei didn't panic. He stretched out his palm and the infinity water pounced on the red light. Explode. Rumble, Han Fei didn't hesitate at all. A character that could quietly enter his perception range, avoid Xiaobai's danger premonition, and get so close to him without being discovered was definitely extraordinary. The terrifying explosion set off tumbling waves. It was like a mushroom cloud rising, and the red light was directly torn apart. At that moment, Han Fei and the others all activated their secret methods. Zhang Xuanyu and the others had already fused with their spiritual beasts and stabilized their figures in midair. Ha! A high-quality divine weapon exploding? You're really willing to sacrifice yourself. I've really suffered a loss. Under the impact of the self-explosion, Han Fei and the others had been blasted more than 10 kilometers away. The sea surface was directly sunk into a deep pit, which couldn't be smoothed out for a long time. And in the terrifying explosion, a set of bright red armor appeared. Immediately afterward, Qi Shuahuan walked out of the terrifying waves. Qi Shuahuan looked a little embarrassed, but the degree of injury seemed insignificant. Han Fei narrowed his eyes. Qi Shuahuan, ranked 7th among the 8 wings of Blue Feather. Luo Xiaobai and the others instantly became serious. This time, it was different from before. The 8 wings of Blue Feather were peak-level sea spirits, which were completely different from ordinary sea spirits. In Han Fei's perception, the sea spirit and dozens of sea demon realm powerhouses, who were looking for something, were also rushing over and would arrive soon. Han Fei grinned coldly. I didn't expect that I would be tricked by a group of fishes today. Han Fei didn't use voice transmission, because voice transmission was useless. He said directly, leave Qi Shuahuan and the other sea spirit to me. The rest is all yours.